My money don't jiggle, jiggle, it folds. I like to see you wiggle, wiggle, for sure. It makes me want to dribble, dribble, you know. My money don't jiggle, jiggle, it folds. I like to see you wiggle, wiggle, for sure. It makes me want to dribble, dribble, you know.
Greetings, gamers, and welcome to the 179th live stream from the Misfit Gamer Studios. I am your host, Vortex, and this is D&D Discussions. On today's episode, as always, we have a homebrew review, a community creation coming from a brand new submitter, SuperFox YT. We have, for the first time, and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, this is the first boss-style creature, that official boss-style creature that we've done. We've talked about other submissions that are boss-esque, but I believe this is the first official intended boss fight submission. So I'm really excited. This one's called Magus, the Ultimate Dark Lord. This is modeled after a boss fight from Chrono Trigger, the game, if I remember correctly. So I'm really curious to see. I don't have a lot of memory on it, but I did play the games before, so we'll see if it jogs any memories or if this is something brand new just for D&D. But join us on that as we go through this, because we have a lot of new stuff coming through with this particular review. So I'm really excited, and we will begin here very shortly. What's going on? This is going to be fantastic.
Hello, my friends. Yes, I'm very excited about this review. It is chunky.
Can you double check? Is this the first official boss that we've done?
So,
we talked about creatures that simulated or were featured in a way that felt boss-like.
Are we talking about, was any of our previous submissions intended by its creator to be a boss battle? I would say the only one that I think falls under that category as well is, I forget exactly what it's called, but I'm pretty sure it came from Cosmic. It was that giant skeleton-like creature that had
the multi-zone, not the multi-zone creature.
Yes,
but
when we were talking about with multiple points of impact for its actual like squares that it takes up.
Absolutely. What's going on, Soul? How you doing, Super?
Gasha Dokuro.
Yes, Gasha Dokuro. But
yes.
Was that intended as just a creature of a large size and therefore it's best suited as a boss, or was it?
I think in their initial submission to me, it said boss creature.
Gotcha. Okay, so this will be the second official boss creature that we've done.
Yes,
not quite the first, but still good. Still good.
No, very excited for this.
Now, this is also going to be something a little bit unique because we don't often have submissions that are based off of active like IP.
Yes.
So this is going to be based off of, I looked it up right before just because I remembered the name, and I want to remember which game because I remember SuperFox talking about the two different games, Chrono Trigger and Chrono Cross. So I just looked up the name because I didn't want to know anything about it, but I wanted to remember which game it was from, and I believe this one is based on a quick Google search from Chrono Trigger.
Okay.
I don't know if this was the official final boss of that game or just
another character.
One of them. But yeah, I'm really curious to see how it looks in D&D and how we feel about that.
For sure.
All right. If you want to give us context with the point of the players, in what point the players would fight Magus, well, we can try to figure that out based on what we read. That'll kind of be like the idea of it.
The way this has been described, and just because of some of like the context wordage, I would say this has got to be like 20th level
like
party,
final boss,
like final boss. Like this got to be like the end of the
and let's see
the campaign or something.
Foxer, I don't know. What do you prefer? Super Foxer? Do you actually fill the preferred name? Do you just want Foxer? Let me know. But keep that on the ready. Keep a quick little description on the ready. But let us go through this because I know this is going to be your first one, so we can kind of let anybody know after the quick intro. We'll kind of go over all of it. Foxer is fine. Cool. So we will kind of go over the general gist of how we're going to approach this, and then at the very end, if we don't quite feel like we know where it's at, or we'll give our guess on where we would place it as DMs and where we would expect it as players, and then you can post that little snippet of letting us know where your intended was, and that'll be great.
I like that.
If we say, if I say I think it's an 18th level, you're like, no, it has to be 20th, and Foxer comes in and goes, I expected it to be at 15. Maybe we have to re-identify what we think of as a boss battle and where the players would be at that point. Sure. I like that. If you're cool with that, keep that ready, and we will do that towards the end. Now, real quick, I want to double check if we have. I don't think we have any major updates. I did 2 makeup streams since we didn't do Friday. I did a small little IRL stream when I packed.
Okay.
And went over all my new gear. So
cool. Very nice.
And then I did a stream on Sunday. Played some games, just goofed off.
Very nice.
Try to make up for the fact that we didn't do Friday.
Fair enough.
But I do think this Friday we will pick up right where we were intending to leave off, which is more one-shot rivals.
I'm super here for that.
And then after that, I would like to get back into either a pop culture build, a sublane subclass, or a history up. I really want to get just another decent D&D themed episode out of the way. And then maybe after that, 1 or 2 more devs, and then we should be able to start playing one-shot rivals.
I think that would be very cool.
So that's going to be, future there. Let's see. We have a couple other things for this month. The May community stream already happened. The June community stream we haven't selected a date for, but I did just see an update from Soul. They've added 10,000 already to the community stream for June.
What's the total? What's the total that we need?
I don't have it. I don't know why it doesn't readily give it to me like right on screen.
I thought it did.
Not for me at least, and I don't know why. I wish it did, but
rude.
Let's see. I see. Can anybody else actually see it? See how much the community stream has been submitted to, because I don't know why I can't. You would think as the main admin, I'd be able to see it very easily. Let's see. Stream together, clip. Stream.
39% raise. Do you want me to 30? Goal is 30.
We're at 30?
No, that's the goal is 30.
Yeah. How many are we at?
We're at 1244. I'm sorry. 12,449.
We're not even halfway there.
Not yet. 41% raise.
And they don't wait. Is this going to be the first time we don't have a community
How much longer do they have? They've got
Friday.
They've got till Friday.
It's the end of the month.
It is the end of the month.
Like, I mean, that would take, because Soul just did their, well, a lot of people have been running out of points. So maybe 30K was, I don't know, maybe 30K is a little bit too expensive now, because it is burning everybody out of their points. And I don't want people to burn out of their points just to get this.
That's fair.
Like, should scale with the level of community. So maybe this is proof that 30K is too much for community.
I mean, isn't this the second or third time we've done 30K? And the first couple of times they got it so quick.
But that's because they were burning all their points the moment they could. But
that's fair.
Soul even said that they're out. So maybe we need to drop it back down to like, I don't know. Even if we did it to like 15, it would still take Soul and Hecate. Like, even if they did the spamming, it would still take them a couple of streams. So maybe we need to drop it again. I don't know. That's unfortunate, because I mean,
we'll look at it.
I'm not going to be upset about having a month off, but it will be the first time since we've been doing community streams.
Yeah,
it'll be the first time we haven't done one. Consecutively.
It's wild. That's wild. I mean, it had to happen sometime,
right? I mean, that was kind of the point. I just it feels bad, but it also like that's kind of the deal. So I don't know. We'll figure out by Friday what's going on. Maybe I'll do a couple game streams to let people sneak it in. But I don't know. Fun fact: as the stream started, Foxer's Wi-Fi decided to turn off for 5 minutes.
Disrespectful.
Immediately jumped on the phone to see it. It is funny how it still surprises me how many people watch us on mobile. It is still funny. It's like still 15% of our audience.
Really? Wild.
Do you want us? Do we want you to tell us the context of the encounter, or do we want to go blind? So let's go in blind, because that's kind of so
Yes.
that, you know, the idea is that we are going to go through it both as DMs and as players as we would come across this in the wild. Like,
Yes.
the idea of these submissions
If
is
I just Googled and I came across this as a potential
If I'm
creature to
scrolling-
use.
yeah, if I'm flipping through a book, a
Sure.
new monster manual that I just bought, and we came across this, what happened there? Why didn't that work? Why isn't the points working?
Really?
Yeah. That hasn't happened yet. Hold on.
Weird.
Nothing's working.
Did that app disconnect?
Is
Is that possible?
It may. Oh, wait. It looks like it happened. It must
At
be
least
just
one of
having-
them happened.
It must be having a really bad delay.
Oh, that's wild.
I think that's what it is.
Okay, well, it's still here. We made it work.
All right. Yeah.
Well, we'll wait for it to catch up. Watch like
yeah.
4 more of them pop up in like 30 seconds.
Right. So yeah, the idea is going to be just us going through it as if someone came across this, and that's the point of the review, is to see both how we would respond to it and our viewpoints of how universally acceptable this is, because we have some viewers and some in the community that have submitted items, creatures, and that are specifically based on their settings. You know, they're specifically based on a campaign that they're going to run. So those, we do review those a little bit differently. We typically call those showcases.
Yeah.
But everything else we try to look at from the ideology of, is this universally acceptable to the average gaming crew? Could the average DM or the average player bring this to their table, and could it be integrated
Very
without,
seamlessly.
yeah, without, you know, extensive changes? So that's kind of the, you know, the idea that we approach it with in general. So yeah, whether or not we can guess your intended purpose for this, we'll see. You know what I mean? But first, we're going to see how well it works as something that anybody could just pick up and throw in.
Sure. Definitely.
And then, we'll guess both the level at which they would face this at, as well as the context of the encounter. So that tells me right out the gate that this may or may not be a guaranteed encounter.
Okay.
Because if there's context to the encounter, it sounds more like there might be a trigger.
I do feel like somewhere in the original submission it said optional, like ultimate boss fight type deal.
I believe when Foxer first brought it up, I think it's like an optional like bot, like,
yeah,
like it's after the main story, but then you can keep progressing, almost similar to what Cosmic mentioned, where after the conclusion there's still more to be done.
Very true.
So yeah, we'll try to figure that out. Other than that, I don't think there's any other updates. I'll try to stream a few more times to let the community stream for June catch up, but hey, maybe we have a break. And then other than that, I don't think we have. Oh, did I have any other polls going? I think that might have been the only thing.
I can't think of any, but I do be tripping like that.
Nah, nothing. Cool. So if that was everything, we can begin here. Let me get everything set up.
The only way to begin is by beginning.
We do one of these. Cool. All right. Oh, yeah, there it goes. Look at that. Starts just
Starts pouring in.
Okay. So you got an extra 10 points. Congratulations. Perfect. So let's do. What are we doing? thumbnail change. Okay. Only took him like 5 minutes. Yeah. Well, maybe the Wi-Fi was just infectious.
Yeah. How dare you sending your Wi-Fi catastrophe our way?
All right, so we will do a quick little intro here to intro this, and then we'll just move into the regular review. Ugh.
Indeed.
Let's see. So, Magus, Dark Lord, Chrono Trigger. Do our review. Talk about how we do the review, and then on this particular one, we're gonna guess what level and context. Oh, okay.
We got this. We getting it.
Okay. I just gotta get through an intro. I just gotta do an intro. Okay. Okay. I'm gonna do an intro here for YouTube. Y'all know the drill. When you hear "Greetings, gamers," feel free to spam "Hi YouTube" in the chat. We'll do a quick intro, and then we'll get everything set up, and then begin the review. Sure. Start. Yes. Cool. That's ready. That's ready. Okay.
Let's do this.
See if I can get it in one take and how many mistakes I can make. Greetings, gamers, and welcome to another homebrew review from the Misfit Gamer Studios. I am your host, Vortex. That gentleman over there is your co-host, Kage. And today we have a brand new boss-style creature from a brand new submitter, Super Foxer. This one is going to be modeled after Magus, the ultimate Dark Lord from the game Chrono Trigger. I'm very interested because I played this game a very, very long time ago and don't remember a whole lot, so I'm very interested to see if this particular one strikes any memories. But join us today and let's see what this thing can do, how powerful it is, and what level we might find ourselves encountering this at. Join us today as we review Magus, the ultimate Dark.
Nice. Very cool. I'm excited for this. This is gonna be fire. This is gonna be fire.
I'm super excited. Wow. Okay. I actually didn't do too bad. Maybe one and a half little mistakes. That wasn't
kicked
half
its
bad.
ass.
I'm getting better. I'm getting better at just being able to flow through that.
Come on now.
Okay. Hope I didn't miss anything. I think that was pretty good. All right. So, Magus, the ultimate Dark Lord. We have. I think we will too. I'm really curious. I'm excited to go through this. So, Magus, ultimate Dark Lord from Chrono Trigger. It is a humanoid creature coming from Super Fox YT, also known as Foxer from here on out. Starting with a description as always. You wish to fight me then? The bitter black wind begins to howl. I have no idea if I did that voice justice, but hey.
I love it.
This boss build is for tactical, high-level parties who enjoy thinking their way through brutal fights. If your group isn't used to adaptive mechanics or hard encounters, consider giving them the Scrolls of Lifeline and Power Word Fortress, see Player Help Scrolls, to help balance the encounter a bit more. So right off the bat, I'm impressed with the arrogance of this, basically saying, hey, this is an extremely hard boss battle, and if you don't believe in your players, I've already planned out the best possible helpful additions. Like, I love it, and that right there, while it's not lore, it is very much pulling me in. I immediately, as a player,
Yes.
I'm like, okay, I want to, like, as a player, I'm
Let's see what
immediately
you got. Let's see what the book you got.
like, I'm immediately defensive. I'm like, fuck, no, bitch, come on, I want to see what you got. But as a DM, I'm like, how hard could this really be?
Like, is this really that bad?
Like, yeah. So I'm instantly good. I do have the player help scrolls pulled up.
Okay.
So we will look at those after we review this, but
That
we
sounds
will
good.
keep that in mind moving forward, that if we feel that this is too powerful before we give it too harsh of a critique for being too powerful,
Sure.
we will then look at it in comparison to having the helpful add-ons.
Got you.
And then we will be able to judge if we say it's, too hard, but with the add-ons, it's just right. Great.
Sure.
But if we're like, it's not that difficult, and then you add the add-ons and you're like, oh, okay, it's more mellow.
Yeah.
So I'm really curious about that. But yeah, just the that arrogance of if you're too scared, if you can't handle this, look, I already thought about that because I know you couldn't handle it. It's kind of-
Wild. I love it.
But I am actually I'm more familiar with Power Word Fortress because we actually recently learned more about the Power Word series a couple months ago. But Lifeline, I'm not familiar with, so I am really curious to see what Lifeline is. When we
I'm
get
pretty
into this.
confident both of these spells are custom spells that are created by Foxer that are not standard
Oh,
spells.
really? I could have sworn Power Word Fortress.
No,
was
I mean,
a
I know
spell.
there is a Power Word series, but I don't think Power Word Fortress is a part of it. At the very least, not the way it's described in the spell
Interesting.
presented here.
Fortify. Thank you, Foxer. Yes, I was confusing Power Word Fortify.
Oh, okay.
Foxer just confirmed in the chat. They are both custom, but there is Power Word Fortify, which is absolutely what I was thinking. Thank you.
Got you.
Good catch. All right, so immediately I'm drawn in. I like it. Moving forward, I don't have to ask whether this is provided or not because this is pretty much from the game, if I remember. This is
it really?
not well.
I feel like I gotta
it used to
play
be a
this
different-
game now.
It used to be a different sprite because it was a. Remind me if I've PS1 game, right? Chrono Trigger and Chrono Cross were PS1 games, if I remember correctly.
I think so. I remember it being on like the very
Oh,
old
this is
school.
fan art. Okay, but yeah. So fan art, but it's SNES game. So yeah. So these were sprites. So fan art of the
game.
character,
Character.
but this is not official art. This
I was about
is
to say because I feel like the art was a little bit more like pixelated, blocky, 2D type stuff.
Yeah, SNES. It was very pixelated, but yeah, that what I meant was this is a depiction of what the game
Of the actual game
represented.
character. Yeah.
But this is beautiful. I love this. Very well done for the representation of what I remember this boss being.
Absolutely wild.
Okay, so moving forward, we have a medium humanoid, lawful evil. Armor class is 22. We have an arcane mantle. Can you give me a little bit of insight on what that means?
So I think this is just a unique way of saying it's their version of like mage armor, or maybe they have some like robes enchanted with the ability to give them a higher armor class or whatever.
So it's not natural armor, but it's not a specific type of armor that we know of.
Correct.
It is
correct.
just
It's
we believe that they have some sort of magical enhancement.
Yes. That's the vibe that I'm getting from this. Like, they've like permanently enchanted something to be like, yo, you can't fuck with me.
Okay. So if Foxer could confirm whether or not we have that correct with the arcane mantle, essentially it's a bridge between not being natural armor, but not quite being a specific type of armor. So it's somewhere in the middle of some magical type of
Oh,
defense.
that's weird. He's sitting on ads right now.
Yuck.
He said he pulled up an incognito tab. I hope that works.
I did try to pause the ads during the intro, so it must have just ended.
Mm.
All right, so when they come back, we'll remember to ask the question. Hit points 500. That is a 40d8 plus 280.
God bless America. That's
Off the
chunky.
top of your head, do you know any creature or what level of creature tops out around 400? There's got to be. I'm not surprised at it. I'm just trying to think off the top of my head what does that relate this to?
I mean, instantly, like, my question is, what's the Tarask? The Tarask has 676 HP at
Right.
a challenge rating 30.
Which I would not expect this to be as powerful as the Tarask.
Sure. Let's see.
So what does this have? 4 or
Great
500?
Great worms are about 500. That's
Okay.
challenge rating 28. We got 460, which is Mephistopheles. That's a named creature. I probably should have chosen that.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'd say
so this is I want to say, is this god level power?
I would say it's approaching it if it's not there. So I did speak with Foxer earlier today, and they mentioned to me that this would be equivalent of somewhere between a I believe it was CR25 to CR28 creature, if I'm not mistaken. So it's definitely up there in like the higher echelon.
Okay, 'cause
of,
I think there are also some summonable demons that also top
Yes.
out at that range.
yes.
So that's what we're kind of dealing with is demon, like high level demon. Because what was the one I was thinking of? There was a named one that pops up a lot.
25, 28. That's what it was. Oh, Foxer just got off ads. If you wanted to ask the
nice.
question.
So, Foxer, we were talking about the arcane mantle for armor class. We just wanted to confirm our mindset is that's in a way indicating that it's not quite natural armor, but there's not quite a specific armor set that identifies for this. So it seems like arcane mantle is a bridge concept between natural armor and an
Magical.
unknown type of dress. It's this magical. Okay, so it's magic protect. So it's natural armor, but it's natural arcane.
Yes.
Magic mage armor. Kind
Yes.
Of stuff. Okay, cool. I like that. I don't mind arcane mantle. It just wasn't a term I was familiar with.
Sure,
I wasn't sure if that was something in 5th edition that I had never come across.
Unless it's something that I also haven't come across, then I feel like we're
And
on
it may
the right
be a
track.
term from the game.
Okay.
Like if it's ever referenced as a arcane mantle or something.
Interesting.
Okay, so hit points I'm okay with, especially with like higher level demons. Speed is 40 with a fly speed of 60. It has levitation. Levitation being that it has a max height you can go. Whereas like
So,
hover is only in spots.
A lot of the times when I see the little in parenthesis, it's usually just hover. Levitation, there is a levitation spell that allows you to go up and down up to like 20 feet per turn or whatever. So if they're saying that like this person just has perpetually levitation cast on themselves and they can go up and down
So
kind of at will.
Maybe that's the idea, is it's flight as the levitation spell, but it is 60 feet of range. So you can go up, down, left, right. Basically, you're not beholden to momentum or anything else like that. You just get to choose.
Interesting.
That might be that's how I kind of take that. So okay, yeah, that's Fox are saying yes. So it's the idea that they have 60 feet of flight, but their flight works like the levitation spell.
Got you. Okay.
So
that's
for all
fair enough.
intents and purposes, I just look at that as Saiyan flight. I just get to just
Yes.
be in the air however I choose,
Yes.
movement or no movement. Whereas most, like most winged things don't get to just sit there and flap their wings and stay in one
Yeah,
spot.
they're constantly like moving, circling, whatever. And you can be circling within a 5-foot area, like that's fine. But
right.
like,
And then more than hover, which is just in one spot permanently.
Sure.
This is and I also look at this as that you get just all omnidirectional movement. So
yes,
cool. Exactly. Thank you, Foxer. So speed, I actually like that a lot more than the standard I give it flight. I really like thinking about flight as more like levitation with
Right.
certain types of creatures, because
especially I'm not gonna lie, humanoid creatures.
with unwinged creatures,
Yeah.
specifically.
Yes.
All right, so getting into its stats, we have a strength of 12, a dexterity of 22, a constitution of 26, an intelligence of 26, a wisdom of 20, and a charisma of 18. I don't remember enough about the character / boss in the game, so I don't know whether to be surprised that strength was its dump stat.
I really am. Like, I really don't care how much you don't rely on strength. At a certain level, I feel like at a certain like CR, certain like I feel like your strength is just gonna be at least like a 15, a 16, maybe even a 17.
I see your logic, But for me personally, I believe I feel the same exact way, but about Constitution.
Okay.
Because in my opinion, the longer you're around, the harder it is to hurt you, the beefier you've gotten, right? Even wizards get beefier over time, but a wizard shouldn't necessarily get physically stronger over time.
Right.
But I 100% believe that they can take a hit longer.
Okay, I'm not fully against that mindset.
I
Okay.
do like that it breaks the mold. It's not what you expect. But
Yes.
that immediately tells me, without even knowing anything about the character or remembering anything about the game, I'm expecting high levels of magic, movement, because without strength, but with such a high intelligence and wisdom, I'm thinking this thing's going to be slinging a lot of magic, and with that dexterity, hitting it is probably going to be a challenge too. So that's,
I would agree. I would very much agree.
so yeah, when I think of the fact that Constitution and Intelligence are its two highest stats, this thing is that 500 HP makes perfect sense.
Sure.
This thing knows that it is not physically powerful, but it knows that it can last longer than
You can
that's.
outlast. Yeah.
As a DM, that's kind of immediately when I'm reading into this, I'm starting to form my idea that he knows, this creature knows, it just has to outlive you.
Mm-hmm.
It's not gonna be giving you major punches. It's like the Muhammad Ali.
Sure.
You know, it's like Muhammad Ali versus your George Foreman of a party. I don't have to hit you really hard. I just have to survive your biggest hits, and then you have nothing left. That's kind of what I'm getting from this.
Sure.
So we'll see how if I'm correct on that.
Okay. I'm very interested. I'm very intrigued.
Saving throws. We have a Constitution plus 16, Intelligence plus 16, Wisdom plus 13. Skills: Arcana, History, and Perception. Okay. I'm liking the picture that this is building. It feels much less combat mechanics oriented. Like doesn't feel like this is trying to be min-maxed against a party.
Sure.
This feels like it's trying to fit the character, fit the build. So I like that. I like when I see things that don't immediately scream
The most advantageous thing ever.
or for combat.
Sure. Yeah,
Because
exactly.
So many times we look at encounter creatures and everything that's built is, well, how are they going to be in the encounter? Because that's what the players care about. But for DMs, I always encourage, why are you running into that right now? Why is it here? What is its motivation? Like, so yeah, I'm all about this idea of giving skills that don't necessarily directly help them in combat, but give the DM a much better way of implementing this character into my game. You know, knowing history and arcana, depending upon the rest of this, I may be able to figure out where I would slip this person in. Maybe they're not a king, but maybe they're an advisor to the king.
Right.
Maybe they're a scholar from somewhere, right? It's giving me a much better way to role play the character, even if I don't know their origin from
Fair enough. Yes.
We have condition immunities. They are immune to charm, frightened, paralyzed, poisoned, stunned, unconscious, petrified, restrained, blinded, and deafened. Now, I do not know if this is a direct one-to-one from the video game, but I will say, I personally, from a high point of view, I'm not opposed to so many immunities, because with enough justification, I'm okay with it, because you can really earn it. Especially if you're somewhere like you're an immortal, or
Sure.
this is starting to feel definitely 20th level. But from my understanding, from my limited experience and understanding in
Of the
5th
game.
edition,
Oh, a 5th edition.
I don't know if that balances out with that many immunities. My first initial instinct is I don't recall more than 5. And this is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So you would probably know a little bit more because you have more experience with the 5th edition, but it just feels like 5th edition might have a problem, like the average game would have a problem with that many immunities, because think about the average party of 5 to 6 players. That could be half of the group's abilities gone, especially if they all work to like spread out their abilities. That's, blinded and deafened. That's several spells. Like, certain spells won't help. Restrained, that means, no grappling. Stunned, that means your monk's gone. Like, so, what I'm saying is having 10 immunities, we were told that this is an extremely difficult fight.
And we were told it was specifically about being strategic. And so if the idea is you don't get to use some of these cheap tricks, so to speak, or you have to find a way to overcome this, because we've run into plenty of things that say, even if they're immune to this, this affects them anyways.
Right.
Right.
Like you can back it off or at least get into vulnerability. Yeah.
Yes.
You're
And
right.
so if you can find a way to work around this, so this to me just looks like it's adding another piece to the puzzle for you, another layer to the trap that you have to find your way out of type deal.
If we hadn't have gotten the warning right out the gate about this being an extremely tough battle, I would say that it's just flat out too many.
Sure.
Knowing that this is meant to be a step above a final boss battle, I'm okay with it. But I know that there's a lot of players and DMs that would probably immediately, I don't know the right terminology, but I think that would be a lot of people's breaking point.
Sure.
If they weren't really prepared to understand the level of this encounter.
Sure.
So that's it.
But I would say, again, from my perspective, the first thing I would do if I felt that way would be like, I'll cut that list in half. And
So-
yeah, go ahead.
Interesting note from Foxer. This was built semi around a specific party, like their own party, which is made up of 5 min-maxers.
Right.
So to be fair, this is again meant for not the average D&D party, but this is meant for parties that want uber challenges that the standard monster manual wouldn't
can't really provide for you. Fair enough.
So keeping that in
Fair
mind,
enough.
like I said, in High Point, this is totally doable at an extreme level, but I do feel like a lot of people aren't ready for this. So you really have to sell this to the right DMs. This is not just anybody can pick this up, but this is a DMs. Do you really want to give like the worst challenge to?
Are you
your
fucking
worst?
sure?
Yeah. And is your party just constantly ruining everything? Here's your solution. And then the fact that on top of that, you're offering an easier version with those scrolls just is more hilarious.
Yep.
Okay. I am also really surprised that there are no resistances. It is just straight immunities and then nothing else.
Yeah. And none of those are to any damage types.
That's it. Yeah, they are all. Yeah, so no,
It's just condition immunities. There's no damage
that's
immunities.
fascinating.
No damage
I was actually at
resistances.
least expecting non-magical bludgeoning, piercing, slashing, at least resistance.
Sure.
Man, that's crazy. That is crazy. Separated. These are if you really want to kill your players, like really want to use. Okay, so there are some things that this is just.
The second thing that you pulled up is to make things the opposite is to make things worse on your players.
So this is basically either a max it out to 10 challenge, or this is a punishment.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I'm on board with this.
Yes.
All right, so we go straight to senses. It has true sight for 120 feet and passive perception of 23. Makes sense. Languages has common, infernal, primordial, and it has telepathy of 120 feet.
Wild.
Senses, true sight is enough. Okay. Again, I don't know enough about the main character. I'm curious how the telepathy is integrated, but that's kind of cool. I don't mind it.
I mean, I've seen that in other creatures, and it just basically means that they have the ability to telepathically communicate with people within that range. I don't exactly know. I'd have to look up the rules to see exactly how the two-wayness of it works. But like, if it only works if you allow that to work, if you
Gotcha.
intentionally make that connection with them, or whatever the case may be. But
And the intended room for this fight originally was going to be a 200-foot radius room.
okay,
So the majority of the room would be covered by their senses.
got you. So there's a small portion that you can use to evade their
Stay on
their
outskirts.
sight. You know,
Okay.
interesting.
I'm starting to get
Again,
the
very
picture here.
strategic.
All right, moving to the abilities. Legendary Archmage. Magus requires no material components and ignores resistance to magic. spell save DC 24, spell attack bonus plus 16. This is a told you it was a spell slinger, like absolute hardcore spell slinger to the max.
You're not wrong. You are not wrong.
I like that. I like no material components and ignores resistances to magic. So basically everything they cast is going to hit you.
It's going to be damn hard for you to avoid it.
I actually like
damn
this.
hard for you to
I'm
avoid
really on board with this. This is very much, if you want to see a good representation of either what it's like to be an immortal or right before you ascend, like once you reach 20th level in high point and until you ascend or until you give up that character, this is on the level of what kind of gameplay you can expect for like your own PC. Like this
For that PC to come up against?
Or just be like, this is the power levels we're talking about in high point when you're getting close to immortalhood or surpassing it. Is we're talking about that, like your magic, like when you're an immortal, when you come up against mortals, your magic just, it doesn't matter if they're immune. If you come up against a creature that is born to be immune to something and you attack it with that, it's going to feel like that's when I talk about the difference between mortal and immortal magic.
Yeah.
Is immortal magic just is a different level that mortals can't understand. So when they say, well, I have resistance, and immortals like, what do you mean?
Resistance to what?
Exactly. Like I am not one of you. I don't fiddle around. You know, as an immortal, you're essentially like
We're not playing
working
games
with
over here.
magic directly. You're manipulating the weave itself, not manipulating the components that manipulate.
Yeah.
So I like this. I'm digging this as something that I can absolutely see as a proper NPC battle. If you've pissed off the wrong person or if you've gone to the right places, I can see something similar like this. There's a lot of different NPCs that I have that are encounterable, both diplomatically and encounter wise, like combat wise, and they kind of feel like this.
Wild.
So Void Presence, all enemies within 30 feet have disadvantage on saving throws against fear and charm. I don't quite understand the name, but I love the effect.
I mean, I kind of get it. It's like, again, I always love to go back to these anime moments where they're just aura like emanates from them. And like, imagine like you're in there and they're trying to like inflict some sort of like fear or charm. Like it's just much harder for you to avoid their, whatever you call it, their influence on you. Just by their mere presence, their mere power level.
And this is where something like a little bit of added text would also help some DMs, like Void Presence. When, within 50 feet, characters feel as if their soul or, their soul has left their body or something. And then you go into saying what it actually means mechanically.
Gotcha.
Sometimes those are also helpful
That's fair.
For the author, like we talked about in previous reviews, for the author to help let the DM understand the intent and the context of what the visuals are and what
is actually happening when this ability is being used, other than just like how it affects the world.
But I do get that. I do get this idea that he's so powerful. It reminds me a lot of both Bleach and Yu Yu Hakusho.
Yes.
Where the idea of or even technically in a roundabout way, DBZ, where the more powerful a character, the more powerful and dense their aura is.
Yes.
And therefore that aura can be felt in various ways. Either in the case of like Yu Yu Hakusho, it would be a weight. Like you couldn't stand in certain presences. Or in Bleach, where it would be something more like this. Their aura could actually inflict an emotion on you simply by being near them. And I like that.
I think my favorite
like
example of that was actually in Hunter x Hunter when they were trying to ascend the tower and they finally got to like level 100 or whatever, and they just could not walk through the hallway to get to the other side because the presence of the creatures on the other side was so massive. And they realized that this dude that had been running around fucking with them the entire time was just like strolling in and out of there like it was nothing. And they were like, oh shit.
We're just like, we're not ready.
They are on a different fucking level than us. Like we got to get good before we can even fuck with that. So
I really like that. I like that subtlety, but I as a DM, sometimes while I can take that, it is nice to have a little bit of intent from the author to help me guide how that's supposed to look and how I'm supposed to narrate that.
For sure.
but great overall so far. I mean, so far I really don't have a lot of critiques, simply because boss battles are a little bit more open-ended, and we know that this is supposed to be extremely difficult.
Especially when you have action economy, and so far nothing in here talks about him having any sort of minions. So this is the idea is this is going to be a 1v5 fight, and like the action economy on that is wild. So having you be way beefier, like, and again, it's not beefier, but like way more stacked when it comes to what you can do. Like, I totally get that.
Oh, yeah.
I totally get that.
I'm digging this so far. So we have Mantle of Judgment. It also really explains all the arrogance in the representation of this. And I don't mean arrogance in a bad way from the author, but in the idea of this creature itself is antagonizing the DM and the players of, you're not ready for this.
None of you motherfuckers can handle me. None of you motherfuckers can handle me.
So Mantle of Judgment. At the start of combat, roll a d10 to determine the active damage type that bypasses Magus's magical mantle. That's fucking dope. So it's almost like a chromatic armor, where similar to either, you can think about like chromatic armor, where it's like there's a weak spot and it's just that weak spot shifting. So it's powerful against everything except for that one thing. Or in another way, take it from another science fiction IP, it's very similar to the Borg shield.
Yes.
Once you find the pattern, you can get right
I was
through
just fucking thinking that.
Okay, so few points here. Oh, it is a 1v5. 1v5, and Magus goes solo. So they become immune to all damage except the type rolled, which they become vulnerable to.
There's your damage immunities.
Interesting. So
that's why
D10 to go. Okay, so the D10 is all of the condition immunities.
No.
Oh, wait, no.
The D10 is all the damage immunities, and whichever damage that they roll is the only one that they're vulnerable to. Everything else can't touch them.
So after each time he takes damage from the chosen type by an attack, then it rolls again and switches the type to a new type. If the result is the same as the current one, re-roll until a different one's selected. So
it's literally a constantly changing shield. You can only get hit by a damage type once before it changes to something
and
new.
That's the tacticalness of it, is you have to be prepared to cycle through damage types throughout your party.
That's interesting. That's very interesting.
And so that does technically mean, good point, Foxer. Technically, that does mean they only have 250 HP.
Sure.
Because being vulnerable would take double damage. So no matter what, you could theoretically say that without that, it's a half that battle. So, okay.
But again,
we started streaming way too early, same time as every Monday. Same time every Monday.
Wild. But I will say it's like when you have that, it's very interesting to be able to track this. I would say something that I feel like I would like to see to add to the strategicness of this battle is there's something about like his armor that gives away which one is chosen. And the players have to somehow like investigate or like arcana check or something to be able to know which one it is, but they have to use action economy to do so or whatever.
Doesn't say how the players are supposed to figure it out. It just says that it changes every battle.
Yeah.
And that may be, actually, Foxer, let us know, is that meant to be part of the challenge? They just have to guess? Or is there an intended way to figure it out? We didn't start 8. Oh yeah, you totally didn't oversleep. No, it was us. We totally started early, like way early. Happens. Okay, so the tell is up to the DM, but what Foxer plans to do is take advantage of LEDs that they have. So IRL, like LEDs that you can actually change on the fly.
Got you.
And that's actually kind of sick. So, or evil DMs could be just like, nah, keep guessing. Interesting. So I think then what I would do in that particular case is another one of these bullets is a gem that he wears will shift color, and the players can make a DC or perception, some kind of check in order to see its true color.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like that would be, if you're doing that in real IRL, I would just say to give other DMs that option is just say that something changes colors, and either that's just it, you just see it like his clothes change color, or you have to roll to figure it out.
Sure.
But okay, that's dope. And of course, the damage types that you can become immune to are fire, cold, lightning, necrotic, psychic, radiant, force, poison, thunder, and physical. So just pure physical damage.
Physical, I'm assuming that means bludgeoning, slashing, and piercing damage.
So, and once you have been damaged by that amount, it will change.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a really interesting mechanic. I think that's a very interesting way.
I think it's a very fun way to
battle.
do that. Yes, very much so.
We've talked before about adding puzzle layers to boss battles to make them more than just a fight to who has the better action economy.
Sure. Because how much of your action economy is literally wasted because I'm immune to whatever you're gonna throw at me, right? It's like you're trying to figure it out. Maybe you did, maybe you didn't.
That's true. Yeah.
Wild.
All right, so moving into the actions, we have Scythe of Doom. It's a melee attack weapon with a plus 14 to hit and a reach of 10. It can hit one target, and it has a 5d12 plus 15 necrotic damage. Target makes a DC 20 Constitution saving throw, or have a permanent -2 to attack rolls, and lowers by 1 the number Magus needs to roll to have a successful save. Stack.
I'm assuming that's the DC 20, so that would lower the DC 20 to a DC 19. Is that?
But it says lowers the number Magus needs to have to roll to have a successful save. But when does Magus ever save out?
Is that just in general? Yeah, maybe.
Can you clarify that part for us? Is just what do you mean specifically by what exactly goes down by what? Because I don't remember where we saw that Magus has to make a save.
Maybe it's just saves in general. Like whenever Magus has to make a save, whatever his save would be goes down by 1.
Yeah. If a player has a DC save 18, it would turn into 17. Gotcha. So the player, so target must save a DC 20 or have a -2 to attack. And I would say it lowers.
So it's the specific player you hit.
Yeah.
Their DC, the Magus' save for them.
I would say that the target must exceed -2, and that targets, and any DC that target has, any DC save that target has, is
it would definitely need to.
Magus.
Yeah.
And that's it. Just that targets any DC that target has is lowered by 1 for Magus.
Got you.
Now permanent -2. So, like permanent against Magus, or just permanent? Like,
I think it's
because it does say you have a permanent -2 to attack, but then you have the one that Magus has to roll against. So is that permanent -2 to attack also just against Magus?
That's a good question. That's
during battle. Okay, so just into the end of the encounter. Gotcha.
Okay.
So again, maybe a permanent -2 to the end of, or I would just say instead of permanent, you have a -2 to attack until end of encounter. And any DC that target has is lowered by 1 for Magus.
Got you.
And then that would be a little bit of a different verbiage, and then I'd be all down with that. I like that though. I like the idea. I'm a little bit confused myself because again, I don't know the lore. I don't remember the lore specifically, so I'm
in the game,
sure why the scythe gives them a -2 to attack. Maybe the fear. So
sure.
Maybe there's maybe you could say that it instills a level of fear in them, so it's much more difficult to attack them. But that's the only thing is I don't mind the ability, I just don't quite understand it.
Right. Understand like it's lore, like how it got here.
So so they want us to check the first optional ability now. So optional abilities, if you really do use these, what did your players do? So this is basically the optional rules for punishment.
Yes, this is
so absolute rain at will. You've already lost, you just don't know it yet. So trigger, a creature has accumulated -10 total to its attack rolls from Scythe of Doom. So basically you've hit the person 5 times.
Yes.
Trigger.
Yes.
So you've hit a player 5 times, and absolute ruin, not rain, absolute ruin triggers. Magus invokes the brand of obsolence, a corrupting sigil that crawls over the soul of the weakened foe. The mark seeks to erase the target from existence itself. Saving throws per cumulative attempt. Each time Magus targets the same creature with absolute ruin, the saving throw becomes more difficult to pass. Affected creatures make a DC 24 Constitution saving throw under the following conditions. First attempt, roll normal or with advantage if the creature has advantage on con saves. Then roll with disadvantage or normally if the creature has advantage. Automatically fail unless the creature has advantage, in which case they roll with disadvantage. And then the fourth attempt is the condition is applied automatically with no save. On a failed save, the creature attack and save buffs disappear and instead suffers necrotic erasure affliction for the rest of combat. While afflicted, any necrotic damage dealt by Magus it causes the target to lose half of that damage from their total maximum hit points, bypassing resistance, immunities, and temporary hit points. Effect disappears once combat ends or in death. If the afflicted creature reaches 0 maximum HP, it is instantly disintegrated, leaving only its equipment in its place of death. On a successful save, the creature's attack bonuses diminishes back to -4, and the cumulative attempt counter goes up by 1. I will say this is quite complicated. Like we've talked about this before.
Yeah, there's a lot of moving parts with all of this.
I'm glad it's an optional rule. But to be completely honest, even as a punishment, I don't know if as a DM I would take on this much extra work just as a punishment.
Sure.
Like I would probably myself read this and just say, I'm going to just say that this means that if I can say, like what I would do with Absolute Ruin is just alter this to say that every time I consecutively attack the same target, each attack gets worse. And that's what I would do.
Sure.
This is to the extent of I like where we're going with it. I'm liking the increased difficulty, but I'm just saying this is too complicated for me to keep track of. If I'm trying to punish them, I want something that's going to be easier for me, not harder for me.
Yeah. No,
but
I feel that.
I do love this concept of if I just keep attacking the same person,
you're going to get really fucked up.
I'm just going to wreck them.
Yeah.
So it's 5 times, failing all 5 basically gives them a shot at that. Okay, yeah. So that's what I would say that I think I would just use Absolute Ruin as once you've marked a target, then you just sit there and every
Wail them.
consecutive hit on that target stacks. So, but I do like how this part changes, like rolling normally, rolling with disadvantage, automatic.
How it slides, yeah.
I do like how this works. I just feel that, and I do like the way that the HP system works, where you're digging at their max HP.
Half of whatever damage they actually took.
Yeah, I just feel like there's a cleaner way to do the counters. And that's my only concern.
Sure.
Is the counters are where it would just get too complicated to me. And I would just say, as long as I'm hitting the same person, the counter goes up for consecutive.
Sure.
And then everything else follows through that way.
Got you. No, I get that.
I will also say that keeping track of whose DCs are diminished is also a little bit much.
Yeah.
So I don't know how to fix that one. I do like it that it's per target, but it's a little bit difficult to.
Yeah, it's.
Like, I wouldn't even mind it just being like, whenever. Because what was the trigger?
When they've gotten 5 stacks.
Well, before the. Okay, because they already got the -2, so the 5 stacks, and then. Yeah, I think I think I would just change it to the more consecutive attacks, the more it would take away your max HP.
Yeah.
So it's just taking away your normal HP, but in the background, it's also just hacking at your max.
You're getting hurt and you're not able to recover.
Yeah, but I do like it. I do like the concept here of how much more difficult this would make.
For sure. No, that would be fucking scary.
Still doesn't quite tell me why it gives them a -2.
Sure.
It does say Scythe of Doom, so we can extrapolate that it inflicts more fear on them.
Sure.
But I wouldn't even mind just adding in before the optional abilities, saying that how about when a target is struck by Scythe of Doom, every consecutive hit has a chance to inflict fear. And he already has an aura that gives you a disadvantage on that.
Right.
And then if it inflicts fear, then you can say in the optional abilities, every consecutive hit on a target under the fear condition
Sure.
keeps getting worse damage.
Right.
So that might be a direction that I would take it to kind of incorporate
I'm not mad at that.
and help the DMs understand why the scythe is giving them a -2 to attack.
Yeah.
So
I'm not mad at that.
just one of the options that I might approach that with to help clean up a little bit of the language. But moving on, we have Lightning 2. All enemies within 60-foot radius. It is an at-will ability. Interesting that we're hearing at-will. We haven't heard that. I think that's more of the 4th edition terms, right? Like,
yes. Well, I'll say when it comes to like warlock invocations, a lot of the invocations give you a leveled spell and they call it at will, but it's basically as a cantrip.
Gotcha.
So,
So it's a
at will is
cantrip.
yes, it is. It's just basically articulating that whatever this is cantrip ability.
Gotcha. Okay. So a con save DC 24 or an 8d10 cold damage half on success. Oh, I'm sorry. That was ice. Lightning. Dexterity save DC 24, 8d10 lightning damage half on success. You get Ice 2, all enemies within 60-foot radius, con save 24, 8d10 cold damage, half on success. Fire 2, 60-foot radius, dex save 24, 8d10 or half on success. We also get Dark. Well, okay, so first off, so we get the Scythe of Doom, and then we get basically lightning, ice, and fire spells. Just
little AoE cantrips that like explode out from you at a 60-foot radius. That's freaking wild, man.
That's insane.
That's like you blowing up with like a much larger radius fireball.
Yeah.
And 8d10, that's way more than fireball damage.
And that's everybody. That's crazy, especially because you can fly.
And it's every turn,
going over
carpet bomb these suckers, dude.
That's really what it is.
But it is only centered on you, so like you have to be within that proximity. But again, 60 feet is a decent proximity. You know. Now again, this is supposed to be very strategic. So if these guys are like never adjacent to each other, then you're really only ever going to hit one of these people at a time. Still, 8d10's a lot of fucking damage, but you know.
And it's a massive room, so yeah, you do have. Like, you have to spread out a lot, but I'm peeking at some of these other names, and I'm just like, that he has something planned for that though. Like, I can see there's some plans for everybody spreading out. So moving on, we have Dark Bomb, 20-foot radius, 120-foot distance. It is a Wisdom save DC 24, 6d10 necrotic plus a 6d10 psychic. Fail is you are stunned until the end of the next turn. I'm assuming your next turn. Half on success with no stun. Interesting. So this is basically like it says Dark Bomb, but it's basically a flashbang.
Lightweight,
but it's a necrotic psychic damage flashbang.
God bless.
So America. It's like a flashbang developed by Call of Cthulhu.
That's wild.
Cthulhu gave me a flashbang, and that's what this is.
Goodness gracious.
Until the end of the PC's turn, not Magus's, right? So the end of the target's next turn. Okay. Dark Mist, 30-foot radius, surrounding Magus. Con save DC 24. 6d10 psychic damage. Fail equals disadvantage on your next attack. Half of damage on success with no disadvantage. That's interesting.
So here's the thing I'm noticing. No matter what, you're taking fucking damage. Like, no matter what, you're taking. The only thing he's able to miss on so far is his regular attack. And that's probably only if he gets like a natural 1, right? You know, or anything under a 5, maybe.
Why? And I have no, I can't explain why, but why is it that I'm suddenly getting the feeling that Magus. Why do I get the feeling that, like, if I'm part of the party, right? I don't know why. I don't know if I think this is more of my player instinct, not my DM instinct. This is not how I would do it as a DM, but my player instinct is telling me, why is Magus my best friend?
Why isn't he, or why is he?
Why is he? Why is Magus like the guy who started us on the mission? Why is he the guy who hired us? Why is he like the current, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know why, but the more I understand about what he can do, the more I feel like the context of fighting him is that you either do something extremely wrong, or when you've won the day, you find out he's been the real big bad the whole time.
Yeah.
And you can choose to join him or stand up and actually, you know,
fight against him and try and stop him.
Like
all the powers and stuff that he has, you helped him get along the way. Like, imagine you collected.
I don't know why I'm getting that. I'm just my player sense is just telling me at the very end of the game, this guy's going to be like, "Thank you," and we're just going to realize we have to kill you to undo everything, or you're going to give us the "just join me, you already have" speech.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? All right. Moving on. Black hole. Here's that one I was telling you about. Makes me feel like it's a big room. You're gonna spread out, but I'm gonna fix that. So black hole, one target, 60 feet. Con save DC 24, 12d10 force damage. If reduced to 50 HP or lower, the target is disintegrated. No effect on success. I'm actually disappointed. I expected that to pull everybody in, like a 60-foot radius, and pulls any target.
Screw that.
in.
I want at least 120-foot radius, especially because the size of this room.
Yeah, but if you did 120-foot radius and you could do the force damage, but then do a DC save, and everybody who doesn't save is pulled in like 30, 60 feet, and everybody's half that on a save.
I would say the way I would probably do it is, I would say, especially because of what you're fighting, everybody who fails their save goes all the way to the center.
Cool.
All the way to the center, and everybody else goes
like
halfway to the
wherever
center.
they are, halfway to that center point. That would be cool. And you could still do the force damage, and you could still add in that if they get reduced, they disintegrate. I may suggest that it's only at 0 and not 50.
I would say you have to fail your save, and I could see if you're like, I don't know, because it depends. Like, the way I feel like it is, if you're like 10% of your max HP, and if you're like below 10%, I can see it just insta killing you.
Something like that. Yeah. I can see if it's more like that. That would be cool. Before, while talking to you, they did show that there were unique things about their campaign. We should keep looking at it normally like this, and then later we could check them out too. But take into account, there's also 2 help spells. Yes, we haven't looked at the help spells just yet.
Yes.
But we're just trying to look at this as how would this feel. So I'm digging it so far. So far, I'm not feeling like this doesn't belong in a standard campaign. It's just definitely, it comes with caveats.
Sure.
You need to know what you're doing here. But this doesn't feel so much that I wouldn't say that this can't be run. Anyway,
For sure.
So far, I'm not feeling like this is only available from Boxer.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Black Hole is a missed opportunity. I don't mind the damage and I don't mind the disintegrate, but I think that Black Hole was a big missed opportunity to essentially, again, if this is supposed to really hurt them and be tactical, if you want to spread out, this is going to constantly try to pull you in.
Sure. I would say if it did do what you're talking about, I might not make it at will. I might make it like recharge on a 5 or a 6 or something like that.
Yeah, because otherwise you're just going to keep you're doing it.
You could spam. Now, theoretically, what I noticed is this creature doesn't have multi-attack.
Nice.
So doesn't, it's doing one of these things a turn.
I wouldn't even mind either, that because they're all at will, like even with Black Hole, because we don't want it being spammed every turn. I wouldn't even mind mentioning that while all of these are at will up here in its actions, I would just say, instead of saying at will with all of them, I would just say right under actions, all of the following actions are considered at will abilities, and none can be done consecutively. Just essentially meaning you can never do 2 back to back. You have like, if you do lightning, you have to do something else. You can't just do lightning. You can't do black hole.
Sure.
But you can do black hole, dark mist, black hole. You can just flip flop back and forth. You just can't do 2 in a row. That might make it feel a little bit more dynamic and not just like spammy.
Yeah,
it could help with.
I also kind of
it.
like the idea. I don't think I've seen it used in 5th edition of literally just putting a cooldown on an ability. Like you can't use it for the next 2 turns or something like that.
I don't
just
mind
something
that.
as simple as that, so that it's
very, very video game like, but not in a bad way.
Yeah. So I wouldn't mind that 100%.
I mean, you know what would be a really cool easy mechanic? ADMG time. ADMG add-on. A cooldown mechanic is simply roll a specified die, like a d6, and just start that as your cooldown. Like it could be just a 1d4.
Okay.
Whatever it rolls, and then every turn you just roll that down.
Roll it down.
That would be a very simple way to add in cooldowns. Is you can either just state a standard, number, but I kind of like the idea of just roll a die and then just keep that die out as your counter, as your cooldown option. So when we do talk about things that could be cooldown, we should use that as the mechanic for it. Because then, I like that. All right, so Dark Matter is the last one. This one lasts for 1 minute. It is a 60-foot radius sphere, 150-foot range. Dexterity save DC 24, 10d12 necrotic damage plus 10d12 psychic damage. Dead enemies leave shadow echoes at least 1 minute. Magus has advantage versus enemies within 10 feet of an echo. That's actually kind of cool. That concept of if I take down someone, I leave something that kind of is like an AoE for me.
Magus enemies within.
That's one cast per 1 minute. It doesn't last 1 minute. Okay. So once every 10
Well,
rounds.
the echoes last 1 minute.
Right, no, the dark matter. The dark matter, you can only cast this once per minute.
Got you. Yeah.
So once every 10 rounds. But that's awesome. You can take someone down, and I'm assuming that if you kill them via dark matter, they leave the echo.
Yes.
That's actually. I wouldn't even be mad because the echoes are just echoes. I kind of wouldn't even be mad that
you could attack through them,
or just move them. Just move them. Like you leave an echo and he can just choose to move an echo, and then the next round get advantage on where that echo is.
Right.
Maybe a little bit much, but I do dig this just concept of a shadow echo.
Yeah. I'm curious if you get the person back up if the echo goes away.
I would think so.
I would also think so, but
also what would be dope, and I would probably do this would just be the most random happenstance. This would not ever go on this list, but I would just allow it as a DM. If I ever ran this against someone who played like an Echo Knight, I would totally let the Echo Knight be able to utilize these echoes as well. So if Magus had one next to him, the Echo Knight could like use it as one of their own.
Oh,
just
wild.
Because they're using the same magic. Like I as a DM would say that little like ability of his, this little dark matter ability in the shadow echoes,
an Echo Knight could fuck with it.
I would say, hey, Echo Knight, you now have his Echo Knights. You can feel them, and you can attach, like, just as a
if you could teleport to one of his,
using the same magic, you should be able to feel it, right?
Interesting.
I think that would just be cool. Imagine them using summons and Magus dropping the dark matter, and now everything is filled with echoes. Damn,
dude! If you like dropped like a conjure animals or something like that, and then all of them die, and then they all have echoes, and then like the although that's interesting because it's as if it dies, the echo shows up. But if it's a summons usually disapparates, goes away. But
that's
I still
true.
feel like the echo would still be there.
You know what would be messed up? You want to talk about you really want to punish your party, and you really want to make this like a very BBEG. You walk into the 200-foot room, right? You walk into like the first 10 feet. Magus is on the other side of the room, and what appears to be just a bunch of his minions just dotted across the room. And you think, oh, okay, it's going to be one of those, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, let's get ready. And he's like, no need. And then dark matters his own people, and essentially starts the round
with corpses all over the place.
And he's just like, come at me. So every like 10 feet, there's an echo, and he just has it littered across the room, like, come at me now. You could add that as an optional ability.
That would be wild.
Of you start the battle with a bunch of minions, and his first act is he just decimates his own minions just for the sake of having advantage on the battlefield. That would be like, you know what I mean? Like that's that kind of drawing the line of a BBEG that I don't think a lot of people really think about doing. Like they usually try to make it personal, but I don't think a lot of people really draw that line of that pure psychotic. I am going to win this no matter what it costs me.
Wild.
So that would be
crazy.
That's my evil DM speaking right there. All right, so we have some legendary actions coming through here. Magus can take 3 legendary actions, choosing from the options below. Only 1 legendary action option can be used at a time, and only 1 at the end of another creature's turn. Magus regains spent legendary actions at the start of their turn. Shift Mantle. Immediately re-roll the Mantle of Judgment to change its current damage vulnerability.
Sick.
So if I guess if you get hit and it re-rolls and you don't like that one, and then you know that they're about to set up for that, you can swap it.
Interesting.
So like if you can see, if you are playing correctly and see their setup, you can react on the spot.
Imagine if like the team like just brings out a whole bunch of like sustained abilities. Like somebody like brings out spike growth, somebody else brings out moonbeam, somebody else brings out spiritual weapon, and they all do different types of damage, and they all are like littered around the battlefield, like just waiting for him to like turn one of his abilities to a different one, and they just hit him with it, and he's like, nah, I'm about to run into that moonbeam. I don't like being vulnerable to radiant damage, so let me just change that quick.
That's actually pretty dope. I like that one.
That's crazy.
Too many times legendary actions feel too too targeted at making the players have a bad time. This feels right.
Sure.
This feels like this doesn't feel like he's going to negate every option. It just feels like that's right in the line of what I want the abilities to do, not just, it doesn't sound like it's a counterspell. It's not worded to act as if, because it's at the end of someone's turn.
Yes.
So it's you've either been damaged or you're about to be damaged, and then you change it. But I feel that there's too many times we've seen legendary actions where what this would have said for somebody else, the standard I think this would have been written as is trying to make this as more like a reactionary option where they can do it in response to being damaged. And I mean, like,
it would feel like to me that would, if it's only in response to being damaged, so to avoid the damage, yes, but like, so I know that something like Moonbeam and even what is it, Spirit Guardians from the cleric that has a little ring around them or whatever, those abilities say that the creature doesn't take damage until the start of their turn. So if I happen to, or if they move into my space believing that at the start of my next turn, because they know which one of my vulnerabilities I have, I'm going to get damaged by that. At the end of your turn, I can do this before my turn starts and then just switch to something else.
Yep.
Now, I will say this ability does not have the same caveat as the original reroll, which says if you roll the same thing, you roll again until you get something different.
True.
So theoretically, you could use this ability, roll the same thing, and have nothing change.
That's true. It doesn't say that you reroll. Yeah, that's true. It could just, it's a chance to reroll.
Yes.
Okay. I like that. We also have Dark Slash. Magus makes one Scythe of Doom attack.
There's where his multi-attack basically comes in. He can hit you in between each person's round.
Gotcha. Okay. I kind of like that. That's kind of a freebie attack of opportunity without you having to move.
Lightweight, yep.
Why isn't that a feat? Like as a, like why isn't there a feat where if you have an attack or if you have a reaction, you can, essentially do something like that? That would be an interesting way to, have a feat where you can do like once per encounter or once per day or something like that. Oh my God. Cheap ass bitches. That's what it is.
Wild.
All right. So Mind Fracture. Target within 60 feet must make an intelligence saving throw or suffer disadvantage on concentration checks for 1 minute. And there's a lot of concentration checks with their abilities. So yes, I am totally down with that. I love that mindset too, especially because we, how much we love psionics here.
Oh yeah.
Mind Fracture is such a good term for that. So, wow. No, honestly, I would probably change that to like 90 feet. So.
That's fair. I wouldn't mind it having a little bit more range.
I could definitely see, especially because you're only getting disadvantage on concentration checks, and a lot of this stuff has a certain AOE. I think 90 feet would be the sweet spot for that.
Yeah.
Let's see. Next one, Astral Collapse. Ground within 20 feet becomes difficult terrain and deals 2d10 force damage per 5 feet of movement.
Okay. 2d10.
That's interesting.
So it's basically spike growth, but not.
Yeah, so far we this happens every now and again. I think that's so far the first thing that just doesn't sound like it fits. Well,
sure.
Second thing, because the scythe taking away your ability. I know it's called Scythe of Doom,
right?
But without a little bit more to like lean into the fact of instilling fear. But yeah, this one I'm not really sure I get where this one's really coming from.
Like trying to. Astral Collapse.
It's almost like I want this to almost be another illusion or psychic issue where when you activate this, the ground within 20 feet of you becomes difficult terrain unless the player makes a DC check to overcome like the illusion or whatever.
Sure.
And they take, like, I wouldn't mind it being that, but it just, I'm not really sure where it comes from in terms of just suddenly making a plot of ground difficult terrain. It doesn't even fit with anything else.
That's the other thing. So like the way it's written, it says ground within 20 feet. So for me, that sounds like from where Magus is.
Right. Like
and if that's the case, if you're flying and you like, it is, because I would imagine a lot of his time might be spent in the air. Maybe not a lot, but maybe a good portion of that time is going to be spent in the air. So, and maybe just Astral Collapse is just something that he does only on specific times or situations or whatever when he is on the ground or whatever. But I don't know.
I honestly, actually, you know what it would be would be great? Add verbiage to the beginning of this. Because these are, well, it's at the end of their turn. Yeah, actually, this still might work. I wanted to say something along the lines of tying it to him landing, but that would allow him to move on someone else's turn. Like, you would then have to have a caveat. If he's within X feet of the ground at the end of a creature's turn, he can land, causing the 20 feet around him to become difficult terrain and causing force damage.
I like that, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. There's plenty of things that say that.
Astral Collapse is like him just doing like a dive bomb on the ground.
Yeah, kind of like a Human Torch in Marvel Rivals.
Yeah, superhero landing kind of thing.
Yeah, just running down like smashing or whatever.
So if we just said, if it said that, where Astral Collapse is when landing, or when in flight or within 60 feet of the ground, and activating this, they would land and then do this exact same thing, the 20 feet around them. Because then it's more of a dive bomb attack, and then it gives them time to get it back in the air, because they would have difficult terrain to get to them before they would jump back up in the air and be defensive again.
Yeah.
So I think I would feel a little bit more comfortable with that. It would explain it a little bit better, and I feel that as a DM, it would feel, or I feel like I could make it more tactical.
It would be
by
sick.
Deciding where I
imagine comboing that with the with our version of the black hole, and it bringing everybody into that central location.
Oh, and then you dive bomb
you put it right where you dive bomb, you put it there, and then you
and then you pull them
and then you bring everybody
and
in.
Then everyone goes over the difficult terrain and then takes the
and then they have to spend that movement to get out, because then they're in the middle of it.
Yeah.
That would be crazy.
I think I would do that, and I also and Astral Collapse doesn't run out, so it's there permanently.
Oh, the space?
Yeah, like the difficult terrain.
Also, then you can spam the shit out of that.
Right, you would just poke it. So I don't know. Maybe I would say that you could. It was only when you're touching the ground, so as soon as you leave. But either way, I still kind of like tying it to him landing.
Sure.
Being a thing where at the end of someone else's turn, you can just decide to target the ground within 30 feet as long as you're or within 60 feet of you as long as you're flying.
Sure.
And do this. That I think would make it more logical, make me feel better about using it, and I think it would just add a little bit of tacticalness that the players aren't ready for.
Sure. I would either say that, or the only other option would be making it like Astral Blast, where you can like shoot something at the ground, basically doing the exact same thing except at range instead of having to move your body there.
I like it being I wouldn't mind being a little bit at range, not very far, but
sure.
Yeah,
like 20, 30 feet, something like that.
I can easily see that at range. Okay, what's the next one? Void Shackle. A creature within 90 feet must succeed a DC 20 strength save or be restrained by shadowy chains for 1 minute. Save ends at the end of each turn.
Okay. Easy enough.
I like that. There's another spell that does something similar. It's like shadow tentacles, or there's one that does that where it's like you do it and then like tentacles like like these like void tentacles are supposed to like reach out and grab you.
I know there's a in 5th edition there's a warlock subclass that has a lot to do with like tentacle things that are coming out, and you can use them to like grapple people and stuff like that.
I kind of dig the void shackles. That's
very cool. And again,
at 90 feet too, so that's why I think that and Mind Fracture, I think both of them make sense at 90 feet.
Sure.
Being able to just say nope, you can't move right now, and being able to just save out, and then you're
restrained is kind of rough. Right? Restrained is kind of rough. And again, this is super high level, so DC 20 is not too crazy. They're probably gonna have stupid bonuses, but again, if they're within 30 feet, they're gonna have disadvantage on whatever save they have.
1 minute too, and that's crazy that they can just do that 3 times in a row. Just bam, 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 and then on the next turn, bam, like that one would probably be the hardest one to spam. Is you could just sit there and make everybody just not move. Man, that would suck.
Yeah.
I don't think it's too powerful. I just think that
they have a lot of other stuff to use their action economy for, so I feel like the level in which they would spam it is unlikely, because there's probably other things that they could do that are cooler and better than that. But again, it doesn't use up any resources. Like it's it's a renewable resource. Like every time you have a turn, every time you or have an action, you have a bonus action and have a reaction. Like every time you're gonna get all 3 of these legendary actions back. So
I think as a DM, I would use it most when it's the initiative's about to end and I'm coming up and there's like 2 or 3 people right before me and I know that it's not gonna be that big of a deal. And so, you know, since these recycle, if I still had legendary actions on that turn, like the 2 people before me, I would just be like, shackle.
right.
Then immediately reset them on my next turn, do what I need to. And then if I don't use any of my legendary actions right before my turn, that would probably be my default to just, you 2 are shackled. Like,
Sure.
why not? Why, if you don't use your all of them, why wouldn't you guarantee at least the last person who goes, you would shackle somebody?
Sure.
Just
100%.
Absolute madness that you can do that though.
So wild.
Next, we have Arcane Reversal. It costs 2 actions. So 2 of your legendary actions.
Yes.
If Magus succeeded on a saving throw against a spell, he may make an Arcana or Intelligence check to redirect the effect back to the caster. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. The DC of the check is equal to the caster's spell DC or spell save DC plus spell level. That's fucking dope. That's like the best version of Counterspell.
Oh, so it's like just on top of... Oh, that's interesting. So imagine your spell save DC is an 18 and you cast a 9th level spell. So that's whatever.
17? Or 27?
Yeah.
It would be a 27.
Yeah, it's a DC 27 in order to do that. But I mean, I don't know what their plus to those particular saves would be. But actually it's an intelligence check. They got a pretty decent plus to that. So no, that's crazy.
So
that's
okay,
super crazy.
I'm actually curious, Foxer, because you just said something interesting. Slapping back the fireball. Fireball is an AoE, even though there is a spell save, right?
Correct.
But do you think this should be able to work on AoEs, or should it only be spells that target you?
To me, I feel like it would be really, really hard to have this work on something that isn't a single target.
Yeah.
Because imagine something like Meteor Swarm that affects like a huge area. Like, are you trying to say that nothing in that area would get hit and the only thing that would get hit is the caster?
Yeah.
Or would it just center it back on the caster? And because if you center it on the casters, that could still, depending on the size of the area, that could still hurt a lot of your allies, you know?
Yeah.
So
even though Boxer says it's because it says it's their saving throws, they would agree. I would disagree. I don't think that just because I don't think you can apply it to every saving throw. I think it would have to be against spells targeting them, because that's the idea that you're sending back, right?
Yes.
But
and even if it can target multiple people, I would still say it would work on those ones. If I'm specifically your target, like imagine Hold Person.
Yeah.
You can theoretically cast Hold Person on multiple people if you upcast it.
Sure.
But the effect that is targeting me is what I'm going to bounce back on you.
Similar with Magic Missile. You wouldn't be able to bounce all of them back, only the ones that were specifically targeted at you.
Correct.
Even if multiple targets were chosen.
Now, because that's one spell, if all 3 of them were targeted at me, I feel like I would be able to bounce all 3 of them back at you.
Yes, it's one spell. It's one spell. I would say anything coming directly at you. But that's, I think that's where I would draw the line. Is it's very hard to justify how something like an AoE that doesn't target you, how you basically undo that effect and send it back to the caster. Unless it's more like a mirrored effect where you're engulfed in the fireball flame, and so you engulf them in flame as well. But yeah, I don't know. I think just limiting it to spells that target Magus would be the better option.
I would say if you are gonna allow AoE spells, I would say it just mirrors the effect on the other person. So like if you target me with fireball, the fireball still happens and it's still centered on me. I just don't take any damage. I absorb it and I return it to you, and so just you light up in flame. Or if it's a lightning bolt, just you light up with electricity in response to the thing that you did to me. Like that's the only way. I wouldn't actually move the entire area of effect. I wouldn't slap the fireball back at them.
So it's just more of like, it's if you succeed the saving throw. It's almost like what it should say is if you succeed the saving throw against a spell, the caster takes the damage instead of you.
I would say that,
like
yes.
The caster takes the full damage of the spell instead of you.
Yes.
And that would make more sense. And just because to clear up the idea of, then you could say it's AoE, right? Any effect of the spell that's targeting you, the damage is sent back to the caster instead of the effect. Because I just think that, like what we did, people take terminology in a certain way.
Sure.
And I feel like too many people would argue, well, does that mean that the fireball is now recasted in a different location? And I think it's just easier to say that what you're doing is you are taking whatever, if you succeed your saving throw, the full damage is sent to the caster instead. But I do like that ability. I think that is a hell of a lot better than just a standard counter spell.
Yeah.
Let's see. Cart says, understand what you mean by making legendary actions to put the players down, making quick little necromantic wizard boss. I thought making this legendary action, be able to summon a decent beefy minion would be ideal, since you just rated the 17 scriptures. Put a random spin on it. Arboreal Grappler. I don't even know what that is.
A what?
Arboreal Grappler.
I've heard of a grappler before. It almost makes me feel like these weird tentacled creatures that I came across when I was looking for bad guys for a cave encounter that I was in.
Oh, it's a monkey with octopus arms. Interesting.
Oh, wild.
Okay, so yeah, I think with Arcane Reversal, I like the idea. I think I would just change the verbiage to specify the damage is sent back to the caster just to kind of clear anything up. But otherwise, I really like that, and I do like that it costs 2 legendary actions. All right, we have so much in this thing. This is definitely a boss battle.
I told you, it's a little beefy.
Drain Essence also costs 2. So all the rest of them cost 2, and then there are a couple that will cost 3. Drain Essence. One target within 30 feet takes 4d12 necrotic damage. Magus regains HP equal to half the damage dealt. I was kind of expecting that as I was reading it.
A little siphon. Yep.
Totally fine with that.
4d12, that's not bad. I do kind of like the fact that it's only within 30 feet.
Yeah. It's a little bit less than a scythe. So, okay. I don't mind that. Next time we have Seal Fate. Magus curses a creature within 60 feet. The next time they fail a saving throw, it counts as a nat 1.
So
basically, they automatically fail their next saving throw.
Well, it says next time they fail a saving throw, not next time. Yeah.
So how often does a nat 1 affect a saving throw? Like to that extent? Oh,
like specifically rules is written, not often.
Like a death save? Are we talking about is this a
I mean, specifically for death save, that would hurt because you would lose 2 instead of 1.
That's what I'm thinking.
But
for
outside of that, I don't see it being super effective unless certain DMs have a house rule that say if you roll a nat 1, you take double damage or something like that.
Yeah, that could be something. I think for this one, I would say they just automatically fail their next save. Like if you curse a creature, they just failed their next save, which would be super tactical for Magus.
So what does it actually say?
So they curse a creature within 60 feet. The next time they fail a save, it counts as a nat 1. I would just say they just automatically fail their next save. You're burning 2 legendary points. You basically just say you don't.
Yeah.
So Foxer says critical failure save rule: when a player rolls a nat 1 on a saving throw, they may choose one of the following options instead of taking damage as normal. Option 1, take the attack average damage. Option 2, roll the damage dice normally, then multiply the total by 1.5. Oh, copied from homebrew rules. Okay, so this is specific to a homebrew set of rules of when you roll a nat 1 on saving throws, players get a choice.
Okay.
So that's why this is. So in that particular case, then, feel free to use it however you want. But to make this more universal, I would
say they just fail.
Yeah, fail. The target fail. That you just curse a target and they failed their next saving throw. Period. And in that way, you could even say in parentheses this includes saving throws or death saves.
Got you.
Because then that would even be worse. Is I could curse you on your turn. Like imagine you go, then I go as Magus. You go at the end of your turn, I curse you, and then on my turn, I kill you. Then your next saving throw
is a death
save, and you automatically fail. That would be the tacticalness right there. If you could stack it like that. So if you wanted to make it universal, but keep it, if that's a personal rule for the critical failures for saving throws, then it works just.
Foster says that works too.
Yeah, so it works just fine for your setting as well. The next one, we have Lunar Malice. Choose one creature. Their next healing is halved and becomes necrotic damage instead.
So,
ouch.
The question is, if I cast Cure Wounds on you and I do 15 point or let's say 20 points of healing to you.
It's going to be 10 necrotic instead.
It's going to be 10 points of necrotic damage
Instead, yeah.
instead of any sort of healing. Okay.
So instead of healing, choose one creature. So
I was thinking it like halves your healing and does necrotic damage, but it sounds like it doesn't have your healing. It does half of the healing as necrotic damage. Correct. And negates your healing.
Yes, that's how I read it.
Okay.
There, yeah, you depending on how you want to rewrite that, but yeah, it's I looked at that as however much healing they would have gotten, cut it in half, and then
turn it into necrotic.
The problem with that though is metagaming. How do you do that without alerting the players that you can't be healed? Like, how do you do that to that extent, right? Because if I say, hey, next time you get healed, you have to really hope the players don't be like, well, I'm not going to heal you because I'm just going to harm you instead, right? Like, that's my only thing. But I don't know how you would get around that.
I would feel like the DM could just be like, hey, you have a condition on. You put like one of those condition rings on the player or whatever,
right, and you just don't know what it is.
He knows what it is, and the next time that player gets, although I would say it definitely takes the DM remembering and paying attention. Hey, that's what that thing is for. But I mean, that's the case with anything, you know. If you have fairy fire on you, I have to remember to give you advantage on attack rolls against you. So
yeah,
it's not.
I think it would be too hard to say, you know, like because it's at the end of a creature's next turn. It would be hard to say, you know, choose a creature that just healed, and then you know undo the healing. But then that would be kind of disruptive to gameplay. So yeah, I like the idea. My only concern is how do you really implement it without someone being like, well, I shouldn't get healed now. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's a level.
I would say specifically with people who min-max, I feel like that's kind of like their mindset is they're gonna be as tactical as possible. Well, I guess I can't heal you or whatever. I would say it would be possible for you to learn what happens, but then here's the deal, because the way it works is that never goes away. That's just a condition that's just the next time you get healed. So if he casts that on everybody at a certain point in time, then nobody can get healed.
And then what it could be is maybe it's like an AoE, because it says like Lunar Malice, almost thinking like Moonbeam, right? So what if it's an AoE? What if you activate Lunar Malice and anybody that heals within like, you know, line of sight, or anybody that heals within a certain radius of you, the next person that heals, that happens instead. So instead of choosing a creature, it's an AoE effect. The next person that heals in your vicinity.
Oh, I do kind of like that. I think that's
it's less
cool.
min-maxy because you don't exactly know. They don't exactly. I mean, they'll know what it means, but they're gonna have to heal eventually. Someone's gonna have to get healed and take the hit, right? So instead of it being less tactical for the players to know exactly who can't get healed, nobody can get healed in his presence.
Right.
They can use a bonus action to cast like Healing Word, and then their action for the actual.
The only way that would work is if you either had they multi-classed in Fighter. Now it's very possible that some magic caster could multi-class in Fighter, but you cannot cast 2 leveled spells, regardless of if one's a bonus action and the other's an action, unless you have Action Surge. So the only way to do that would be like, unless you're like a wizard and you do Quicken Spell or something like that, or another wizard or sorcerer.
So I would also be okay with saying like, you know, Lunar Malice is, you know, when activated until the start of your next turn. So when your legendary actions reset, you may choose a creature within X distance that is getting healed, and this happens. So you say, I'm activating this.
Okay.
So until the start of my next turn, I can choose anybody that gets healed. So if you may throw heals to him and I may not do it. But then you may throw heals to him and I'm like, no, not that one.
Oh, say somebody's down and you're like, nah, bro, so if you're not getting him back up.
Exactly. So it's more of a, as long as you're in my radius for the next round, I'm going to choose any heal that gets cut in half and turned necrotic.
And if it gets turned necrotic and you're trying to bring somebody back up, that's an automatic failed death save, man.
And that's
theoretically an automatic double death save.
And they would have to, because the players would either have to just forego healing that entire round, or just be like, I hope he doesn't do it. Can I heal? Oh, I healed you. Cool, you're healed. good luck to you next round. You know what I mean? Like the idea of no one knows who's going to get hit.
Like
might add
I can see it being significantly tactical where you do something like spare the dying instead of actually healing them, because spare the dying doesn't heal.
True.
And so it stops them from making death saves. It keeps them alive. And then you force the BBEG to use up all of his legendary actions so that he doesn't cast that on himself that round.
Yep.
And so that way you can actually go heal them, you know? So again, going back to the whole idea of like being very tactical, like finding a way to, how am I going to be able to heal this guy without you using that thing on me, without you. So I like the aura idea. I think that works out really well for a lot of what the intent is for this.
And I think it's just nice of adding a way to make sure that the players can't absolutely min-max it, right? That's my only thing, is this is meant to be a punishment that's meant to be difficult. Min-maxers are going to use every bit of knowledge they have. Not knowing who can't get healed, way more important, I think, is way more
and just giving, like you said, giving that autonomy to the bad guy, just saying, I get to choose. I don't have to do you. I don't have to waste it on anything. I can do it on exactly who I want to do it on, right? I can choose that dude that's down. You're not getting him up. If that means I don't use it at all this turn, it's cool, as long as you didn't get him up, because that's what my goal is, right? So I think that's very interesting.
If you want to go one step further, because I like until the end, the start of his next turn, so it's kind of a buffer. But if you think that that's too easy, because what DM would want to risk 2 for something that may not happen, you could even say that by using the 2 actions for Lunar Malice, you gain a token, and you can only ever have 1 token at a time. But this token can be used at any point as a reaction to do this. So it's like at some point I give up 2 legendary actions during 1 turn to then have.
I will say, I think that having them waste the legendary actions would be a risk that I would say, okay, that has to be strategic on the DM side.
Gotcha.
Like whether it's worth it for you to say, I'm going to hold on to these, and even because you're going to get them back next turn anyway, so you can do it again. But like, using it as like almost an intimidation factor, as a oh no you don't factor, like
I feel like this round's covered, like
I feel like that's worth it to actually use it and get value out of it, so that they don't need to like hold on to it forever. But
that's fair. And there's a ton of other stuff that's available too, so all of this is meant to allow the DM to be extremely strategic and keep up with the players, not the other way around. So, okay. So I do like that, though. I really like the idea of messing with health. I think I would just do it in a way that the players don't see it coming.
Sure.
Next up is Corrupting Hex. Another cost 2. On a roll of a D6, inflict a random condition based on the table below. Blinded, deafened, paralyzed, poisoned, prone, or restrained. So you get one of those randomly by rolling a d6, and you just randomly give that condition.
Wild.
It doesn't say who, so I'm assuming it's just on a roll of a d6. So I don't know if you have to have hit the person or if it's someone you can see.
Yeah, I would put like a range in there. I would put like,
because it's it's not when you hit, right? So it's just random. So it's at the end of someone's turn. You can just bam, give them a condition. So there has to be a range at least.
Yeah, a range, whether it's melee, whether it's whatever. Like even if it's sight, but I feel like it would be make a lot more sense. Maybe 60 feet.
I wouldn't even, because I know that all these say like at the end of a creature's turn, but I wouldn't even mind if this was intended to be in response to getting attacked by someone. Like you burned this, and then the last person that attacked you.
So
this almost like as a retaliation.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So it would theoretically, because there is supposed to be a section for reactions if characters or if creatures do have reactions, just like there'd be one for actions.
I would like that to be more of a reaction than a legendary action.
Okay.
Of someone attacks you and you'd be like, condition. Like just being able to say, I don't like that.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. But yeah.
Now, would you say that only would work if you actually got hit?
I would think so. I think that like similar to the spell reflection.
What if you got hit but it didn't do any damage because you were immune to it? because you are immune to everything except for one, but you can.
I think it still has to be a
theoretically-
successful hit though. Like you don't have to take damage; you just have to be hit.
Got you. Okay.
Oh, and there was supposed to be range here, but I guess they didn't add it. It's supposed to be 90 feet to one target. Okay.
90 feet. Okay.
Totally fine. Yeah, I like the 90 feet. I think 90 feet is a great range for this. Just for the character in general. All right, we have Annihilation Spiral. This one costs 3 actions. A 20-foot radius centered on Magus erupts in raw arcane destruction. All creatures inside must succeed a dexterity saving throw or take 10d10 force damage, be knocked prone, and stunned.
Let me look at stunned real quick. Because if you're prone and stunned, that's wild.
With 100 points of damage, just being slapped in your face.
100 points?
10d10. Just 100.
Could be.
Up to 100 points of damage slapped you on the ground.
You are incapacitated. You can't move or speak. You can't move and can speak only flatteringly. Attack rolls against you have advantage. You automatically fail strength and dexterity saving throws. Let me look at incapacitated real quick. You can't take actions or reactions. Wild. So that's nothing crazy. Says your speed is 0. So theoretically, you could probably still get up.
Yeah, but you are knocked prone, so you have to burn your movement to get up.
Yeah,
and you can't do shit else.
And that's pretty much all you can freaking do is get up.
That's crazy. That feels hurtful.
That does hurt. It does hurt. But that's all that that's the only legendary action they can take that turn if they do that.
But still,
they can do it every turn though.
They can do it every turn. I mean, that's devastating.
But again, if they're smart, they're really not going to get multiple people caught up in that because that's only a 20-foot radius.
Yeah. Okay. That's why I don't mind if you put limitations like you can't do 2 in a row. Even sometimes that because you have so much you can do.
Yeah.
Needing that cooldown of not being able to do it twice in a row might be another way to make this fight easier.
Sure.
Maybe that's on the player help scrolls.
Got you.
Is one option to make the fight easier is that no legendary action can be done twice in a row. And that could be a simple level down. Because I do think that changes how you use the character.
Very much
because
so.
If I incapacitate, if I have them on the chains and no one else is moving, what wouldn't just walk up? If I know that none of them can move for a whole round, I can just walk up to this guy and be like, Annihilation Spiral. Nothing. Reset. Annihilation Spiral. Nothing. You know what I mean? Like, you could theoretically get into a mode where you could spam these, but I don't think you would. So again, different levels of difficulty, I think, are pretty easy to apply to this, depending upon how your players have structured their party.
Right.
All right, so we have Etheric Despair, another one that costs 3. Choose a spell school. All spells of that school automatically fail if cast within 60 feet of Magus until the end of Magus's next turn. So it's anti-magic shield specifically for schools of magic.
So you still cast the spell, you still use the spell slot, it just doesn't do the thing.
Yeah. So it's anti-magic shell, but specifically for schools. I gotta go to the restroom real quick, but damn, that's kind of clever. That's actually really clever.
I like the idea that it is targeting a school of magic. I really think that's cool. I really think like dropping it, like if you're worried about getting hurt, just like no evocation spells, no conjuration spells. You can't bring any creatures in here. Speaking of creatures coming in here, we have a nice feline companion that decided to come join me while Vortex is at bay. But no, I absolutely love that idea, that mechanic. I've never seen something like that, but I for sure want to use something like that now. Oof. Yeah, because you could do so much cool stuff with like targeting different sections of things instead of like the whole thing. Like imagine, you said something like people cannot cast spells of a certain damage type. Like they just don't work. Like anytime you try and cast a fire spell, it just doesn't go. That would be crazy. That would be really crazy. I absolutely love that. If nothing else, that's getting a point of inspiration from me. But you cometh to join us, friend.
For like 2 seconds. He will not be around for very long. he just wants food, and
Well,
so he just decided.
well.
You know, you want to go now? You're like, no, I want food. Give me food. Goodbye.
Food time. Food time.
Thanks. All right. So, yeah. So, I think the targeting of schools is extremely unique and something that's sorely missing from the more modern D&D. This is definitely something
Highly
you would
agree.
expect to see in first
Highly
and second
agree.
edition, but seeing this in fifth is actually very nice. Okay. So
I'm gonna take my turn in the bathroom. I will be right back.
Go. Run. Don't knock anything over on your way out. All right. So how much more do we have? Okay, we have just a couple more options, so I will wait for Kage to come back. So far, I'm really liking the idea of this being an Uber boss. I think it definitely is. It's nice to see something that is not just big and powerful and takes a lot of hits, kind of like a Tarask or anything else like that. I feel that you did a very good job at choosing a source material, and the approach that you took is really great for giving the right type of players the right type of challenge. A lot of the times Kage and I talk on the stream about how more difficult just tends to be hits harder and has more HP. And that doesn't make the fight more difficult, it just makes the fight longer. This feels like it is intended to add difficulty and add layers to a battle that you wouldn't otherwise get. This doesn't necessarily feel like it's just here to hit big for the purpose of hitting big. All of these aspects, while heavy hitters, I can see that are designed for overcoming different party structures and overcoming different ways that you would be able to challenge. I know you intended this to be for the party that you're facing off against, but I see a lot of opportunity here for many DMs to face this against different types of party combinations. I think this is a lot more of a challenge, not just to Foxer's party.
Oh, very much so.
I think this is a very true challenge for any type of min-maxing.
I think this could be very cool. Even just people who really enjoy the planning aspect of a game. Like, because when you think about like a video game like WoW, and people going into like raids and stuff, and you having like very specific party comps and very specific like people doing certain DPSs, certain heals, and certain things. Like, imagine like going into this fight very, very aware of what's coming up and just having to strategize at like how you could beat this boss. And imagine your DM allowing you to get some like time loop thing where you can like almost like a what's the Souls like game, Dark Souls boss, where you can just go up at it over and over and over again. You know what it can do, but
and that's I think that's the other thing is how is this intended to be introduced to the players, because how much they can learn ahead of time will drastically change how they approach the battle.
Yes.
And I think that is something that we don't see here, is how much are you supposed to prep them before the battle begins. But we do have 3 more of these 3 action costs.
Okay.
So we have Undo Fate. Magus forces a reroll on any successful attack, save, or ability check against him. If the second roll fails, the attacker suffers 1d10 or 6d10 psychic damage. I kind of like the psychic damage.
I do. I don't see how this would operate outside of a reaction unless we did the thing like we talked about before, where Magus activates this ability and the next time he takes damage,
well, it says
he uses this.
Any successful attack, save, or ability check against him. Right. And
so that would
only
have to
at the end of someone else's turn.
Yeah.
So I guess it just means that if you attack him and then your turn's over, he goes, by the way, that last attack didn't happen.
Well,
like it's changing fate. So he's going back in time and saying, at the end of your turn, whatever you just did, I'm choosing one of those things that you did after it's been done.
Oh.
So let's say, the wizard goes and casts heal on somebody, and then the fighter goes, and the fighter approaches me, and the fighter attacks me and does something else, and blah, 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 in the end of the fighter's turn. I can be like, hey, I'm burning 3 that whole turn. I'm going to go back to when you attacked me, and I'm going to reroll it. So everything else happens as normal, but I'm going to reroll that one thing that happens.
So interesting. So he gets foresight enough to know all the things that happened to him on his turn, and then choose which one he wants to attempt to undo.
Yeah, you basically get every PC, you get to look at their entire turn and undo any one of those aspects that happened in that turn.
That specifically required an attack roll.
Yeah, as long as they were the last character to act.
That's pretty interesting. Okay.
I kind of like that. That again,
Okay.
I will go back to what I said before with the Astral Collapse. This one also doesn't make a lot of sense. I don't really feel like this
fits with what
the
we've
rest
seen.
of the build.
Yeah.
Both of those still feel outside of the scope. I don't mind the abilities, but they do fall outside of reason, in my opinion, on how do they
fit here in this character with this build.
Because we usually like to see things that stack or things that are synergistic. Those two currently feel like the only ones that, while I like what they do, I don't necessarily immediately understand why he can do.
Right.
But we have another one called Timeshare. Again, more of this Dunamancy, I believe that is, right? Dunamancy, Chronomancy?
I would say, Dunamancy is at the very least the way that Matt Mercer brought this sort of like time shifting element into.
Yeah, because I know Chronomancer was a thing, but Dunamancy seems to be the more popularized term.
So the school of magic Chronomancy is as a result of manipulating Dunamancy.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
That's kind of
there's other layers that I don't know there. Okay. Again, that's
same thing with gravity magic, which is kind of weird because that's also tied into Dunamancy.
I still it's just it always boggles my mind how little I know about 5th edition, and that how many, again, just those people on TikTok are just like, tell me that you never played anything but 5th edition. I'm like, but I haven't. I barely know 5th edition. There's so many things I don't know. It's so funny.
So
anyway, so Timeshare. One target enemy makes a wisdom save, DC 22. On a fail, they lose their next turn. So I would say I don't like the term like timeshare, because I understand Undo Fate, timeshare kind of in the same ballpark. I would have that instead be called like Mark of Fear or Mark of Terror, or if you really want, I have to just give it something to where, because it's like, one target that you can see, right? So it's almost like I just want this to be more of like part of that fear, because we have the Scythe of Doom, we have all of these aspects that he's able to like inflict, like that fear zone. I feel like we haven't really leaned into that as much. As
Sure.
So I think just do the same exact thing. I just think change it instead of it being time based. Make it more of like you can just like freeze them in place. They are literally not frightened. They're not in fear. They're frozen. They're
locked.
Just locked in terror.
Interesting.
I think that would be my let's see. So not their current turn, their next turn, like he casts it round 1 and it takes effect round 2. Gotcha. Okay.
Wait, say that again.
So if he casts it in round 1, the effect will take around in turn 2. So it's Magus and I cast it on you.
Mm-hmm.
You're still going to get this turn.
Okay.
Next round on your initiative, that's the turn you lose.
What if I cast it at the end of your turn, this initiative? It'll be your next turn. So you just took your turn.
Yeah.
This is my legendary action. I'm using it on you.
Yes.
The next round that comes around, your turn will happen, and that's the one you won't have.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's the following turn. So
okay.
I don't mind it. I just think that it should. I think this should just be leaning into more the fear, because that would make it more succinct. I think the time, again, like we said with Undo Fate, just doesn't feel like it makes sense to the rest of the build.
Sure.
Keep the fear theme going. But I like the ability. I really like the ability of just taking away someone's turn. I think that's underutilized.
Fair.
I mean, you get stun, but
yeah, but even that's not actually taking away your turn. Just saying you don't get to do anything on your turn. That is powerful. That is not something that you get to see. It's like on your turn, normally you can like certain abilities just happen. You don't have a turn. Like whatever would happen on your turn. Like imagine imagine you have something like what happens at the start of your turn on a lot of things. Can't think of it right now. But like a lot of things will like go off at like the start of your turn or at the end of your turn. Now, would you say an ability that ends at the end of their next turn doesn't end since they don't get a turn?
No, because time frames still happen. Unless, now see, this is where I would say no. I say because they're still in the battlefield. Again, I would say it's more like frightened. It's like terror.
Okay.
But if you did want to make this a time ability, I would go so far, if that's the case, to effectively say that you're removing them from battle. As in like, you hit them into the future. So effectively, during that time that they lost, nobody can affect them. You can't attack them. Allies can't heal them. And any effect isn't actively counting. So they won't take damage of any effect.
Interesting.
But the effect will still be going on for them. So if you wanted to do something like a time thing, I would do that where you literally get pushed into the future. So you lose a whole last turn, but you're just gone. Because there was an old thing in second edition where you could do that, where you could cancel that on yourself. And you basically would like jump into the future.
Interesting.
And you would see everything that would happen, but you would
It's
not
almost
be
like
there.
exiling a card in Magic the Gathering.
Yeah. So that might be the direction I would take it if you wanted to keep it with the time, but I would just switch it to fear and have you just locked in terror on the battlefield. And then anything that would still affect you affects you.
Got you.
All right, and then we have final one, Blood Pact. The target creature that deals damage to Magus on their next turn also takes half that damage. So kind of like Hunter's Mark, but it's Hunter's Mark and then splash damage. Like whatever you do to me, you take damage back.
So is this after they do damage to you? So like,
so this is at the end of someone's turn, you say, I'm going to activate this and I'm going to choose someone. Next time you damage me, you're going to take half that. If you damage me on the next turn. So you just choose someone and say, if you damage me next turn, you're going to take half that damage.
Could I basically say, you just took your turn, you just did damage to me. At the end of your turn, I cast this on you, and that damage you take half of. Or would
that's not how it's meant to be read. I don't know if you could probably rule it that way, but it's meant to be that on their next turn, also take half the damage. So it's the next time they attack you. You select a target and their next attack.
But the way that I read it, that first sentence is target creature that deals damage to you.
Yeah.
Is that specifically in the future?
On their next turn. The target creature that deals damage to Magus on their next turn. So remember, this is at the end of one person's next turn. You target a creature and say, the next time you damage me.
On your next turn, if you damage me.
You're going to take half that damage.
Okay. This would be a scenario where I would be like, it kind of sucks if it doesn't go off. It kind of sucks if you don't.
It's the min-max.
Like,
they're going to just not attack you.
Yeah.
They might as well just heal you.
You know, or heal or do something else, or like, yeah.
I mean, if you're going to cost 3, why not just say that, you know, I would almost say it's like Blood Pact or change the name, but when you burn 3, any creature that attacks you with a melee weapon or with a certain type, like you choose this and then you choose a damage type, and if that damage type comes at you.
Well, I mean, there's only one damage type that can hurt you, so you'd better choose the damage type that can hurt you.
Okay, yeah. So,
you know,
I almost don't mind that just being like, if you're going to burn 3 legendary actions, just like,
yeah,
it's just kind of like the next person, right? Like instead of having to target them, it's just, all right, who wants to attack me next? Who wants to take half their damage? Right? That's because at that point you're putting it on the players of hit me. Go ahead, hit me.
Interesting. I do like the idea a little bit more of just saying that it's anybody that hits you. They take that damage. I would just say not even choosing, just like the next time you would take damage before the end of your next turn, the person that did damage to you takes half that damage.
Yeah.
You know, almost like what do you call it? Armor of Agathis. Armor of Agathis basically says if someone hits you with an attack, you take 5 for every spell, 5 points of damage for every spell level you cast it at.
See, Cart's thinking. Cart knows how to defeat this boss. That's when you start to use your first level cantrip spells that do low input damage. So when he's, gonna input, you just go, okay, well, there's 7 damage. I'm only gonna take 3. I don't care.
Yeah.
No, that's over. Now I can hit you with my lightning spell.
Now, okay, real quick, go back to what that says, because would it be the damage that they dealt or the damage that the creature took?
Target creature that deals damage on their next turn also takes half that damage. So if I do a tiny little cantrip that does 10 damage to Magus, I'm only going to take 5.
So my question would be, if I roll a 7 for the amount of damage that I do to you, or if I roll a 6 for the amount of damage that I do to you, you're vulnerable to that damage. So you take double it. Am I taking half of the amount that I rolled?
No, half the amount that you dealt.
Half the amount that I ended up dealing.
The amount that you deal.
Half the amount that Magus takes.
But it's still the idea that you can choose how, like, if I have a dagger, just
sure,
fine, I take no damage. Or if you know he's going to be immune, attack him with immunity, and you deal no damage, and therefore you take no damage.
I mean, that's very fair. That's
well,
fair.
It does say that they have to deal damage. So no, it's the next person that deals damage, not the next person that attacks him.
Sure.
But still, you could work that. So I would like it to be everyone instead of a target, because this removes the min-maxers from utilizing metadata. And that's the whole point of this, right? The whole point is to challenge these people.
Sure.
And you don't want to give them any amount of information. I like that idea. Overall, I really like this. Let's look at the few things that can help the player and a few things that can make it more difficult. And then what I want to do is take a look at the average damage output that we would see per round.
Okay.
That'll give us an idea of, if you're thinking this is going to last 4 to 10 rounds, which is, a good spread between a standard battle to a difficult battle.
Sure.
We'll see what range,
what type of
players we would be looking at here.
Yeah.
So let's look at what makes this thing easier. So player help scrolls, lifeline, which is one of the suggested ones, unique level necromancy. I think this is going to be a custom one.
Yes.
1 action, 20-foot radius, verbal components, duration for 30 minutes. You speak the true words of the spell. A subtle thread of arcane energy weaves itself around every creature within 20 feet of you. For the next 30 minutes, any creature under the effect of the spell that would die for any reason, whether by damage, disintegration, death magic like power word kill, or any other fatal effects, is immediately restored to its maximum hit points instead of dying or being disintegrated. This effect only triggers once per creature and only during the 30-minute duration. It may activate during combat, but the spell itself can only be cast outside of combat. So basically, it's a prerequisite before you start combat. You do this. Once your creature is under the effect of lifeline, it can never be affected by it again. So it's only for this battle. Kind of like that. Spell does not cure conditions, remove afflictions, or prevent damage. It simply negates the death aspect and restores hit points 1 time. So I see why this kind of makes it easier. It's basically everyone gets a get out of jail free card.
Yeah.
So it's a one-time.
Everyone gets a Phoenix down. They just pop right back up, but at full hit points, which is kind of fire.
Yeah. You know what this makes me want? I want to change something now. I know this is supposed to help the players.
Of course.
I know it's supposed to help the players. But the whole point's to be a challenge, right? So, timeshare. What if timeshare was an ability where they burn all 3 actions and advance the entire combat 1 round? So essentially nobody gets the next round. So like everybody's turn is skipped. You just basically go through initiative until his next turn and everyone gets skipped. Meaning he just advanced time. Meaning...
Does that mean he gets a full round of... Does he get a full round of legendary actions? Like every time you would have a turn, he gets to do a legendary action after that?
No. I think it's just everyone advances in time.
So he gets just 2 turns back to back.
Kind of. But it would affect the time frame this lasts for. Meaning that like when he does that, literally time itself moves forward.
Okay. I mean, it's 6 seconds. I don't think it's going to have a huge effect on this.
And maybe it's like, well, and then maybe that ability would move time like like 10 minutes or like a minute. So I'm just
interesting.
Thinking like just a way to make this ability, because I like this ability, but 30 minutes, it's almost impossible to make a battle go 30 minutes. I mean, the boss had a way to.
But I think that's the idea, is that you're sure that this is gonna last for the battle. You're sure that you're gonna at least get 1 use out of this. But again, it's only 1 use. You go down once and you come back up. How many times will you go down and somebody will heal you back up? Right?
That's fair.
Like it's the same thing, except you get full healing 1 time. So you lightweight get double your HP for this battle. That's basically what you're saying.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool.
I dig it. I totally dig it. I think it could be kind of fun if the boss had a way to like
fuck with it
at the time just a little bit faster in a way that would just, again, give you the bonus, but still put pressure that it's not an easy battle.
Right.
Let's see. And then we have a lot going on in chat. Let me finish this up and then we'll go back to chat. Let's see. Power word Fortress. This is the unique one. Action of 60 feet, verbal component, and it lasts for 1 hour. When you utter the power word of protection, a shimmering arcane shield flows outward from your voice, bolstering all allies within 30 feet. Upon casting the spell, you generate a pool of 300 temporary hit points and 10 points of bonus armor class to be distributed among any number of creatures within range, including yourself, in any way you choose. So you can buff all of yourself or buff everybody in your party with various amounts. You decide how to allocate the hit points and AC bonuses immediately upon casting. The AC bonuses and temp hit points last for an hour or until depleted or dispelled. Each creature can only receive up to +5 AC from this spell. Okay, so you have to divvy out the AC equally.
Well, at least to 2 people.
Or at least to 2 people. If a creature already has temporary hit points, the spell replaces them. If only the new hit points is higher. The spell has no concentration requirement and persists for its full duration or unless dispelled. The spell can only be cast from a scroll, not available for learning and preparation. I like if they're already with temporary hit points, so you can't just like stack.
Right.
But
yeah.
that also means that you can't fuck with the BBEG, because if he had temp hit points, you can't just give him 1.
Oh,
Replace his 100,
That would be kind of cool, though. That would be
funny as fuck. Okay, so basically, giving them both of these would give them, like you said, double their HP, and everybody would get a strategic boost to HP and AC.
And I don't know if I put it in there, but I'm pretty sure in this one, it's also has to be cast outside of combat. It's something that needs to be cast before you.
Which makes sense that both of these would just essentially would be cast right before.
And to be honest, I think the best way to do that is just give it a casting time of a minute. Right, just make it a little bit longer to cast, and then there's no way you're doing this in the middle of combat unless you're really going to try and do 10 rounds of defending somebody while they're casting this spell. And if you really want to do that, like, it really would. Yeah. So, but yeah.
All right. So let's see. Let's see what was going on in chat. About the first level cantrips, doing, like learning how to like do something that has lesser damage against them, so you don't have to worry about that. If you want to make a challenge for the ability, you don't think should be necessarily be announced, make it something they have to perceive. Yeah, and we were talking about that before, making this to where, because this is meant to go against min-maxers, you want to take away any advantage they have, any kind of metagaming knowledge. So making these available for the BBG, the DM, to select anyone or the next person instead of announcing to the table, that's my target,
right?
I think is the better move to make this more challenging. Let's see. Yeah, I don't mind it whether it's a found out, like they have to do a roll to figure it out, or if it's just, it's more of a, they know it's going to happen, so it's just who's, more of a who gets to have it happen to them, just instead of anything to make it less strategic for the players, I guess is the whole point. Let's see. So yeah, this is, and then mentioning that these are one time for the whole campaign, so you only get to use this either for Magus or something else. So they may have these lifeline abilities before that battle, and if they don't use them, then yeah. So interesting that it's like you can give them optional, but they also can choose not to use them.
Yeah,
it's very interesting. And yeah, you can actually get literally disintegrated by his spell, which is fascinating. What's going on, Wally? How you doing? Been a minute. There's also things that make it harder, and then just the rules that are optional. Yeah, so I like these as making them a lot easier. This is really kind of cool to I don't think I've ever seen or heard anybody give options for a boss battle to make it easier. I've known DMs to add in side quests that will make the boss easier. Like you can go to help dismantle like a weapon of theirs, or if you go do a certain side quest, you could reduce the amount of minions, or if you take the time to go take out all their generals, you won't have waves to fight through.
Interesting.
I like those add-ons, but I really like this idea of more or less a difficulty setting.
Yeah.
Do you want normal, medium, or hard?
Yeah.
Or you want easy, medium, or hard? Like using these are
as
easy?
is medium, and with the extra challenges is hard.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's kind of cool. I think that this is definitely a new approach for sure. Let's see. Seems like we have a reoccurring theme of power word stun, power word death, power word whatever. And it may be discreet. So let's make power word defecate.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, yeah, there's a lot of, I've seen a lot of homebrew like power word, messages of like, lesser spells that have been boosted up to that. I think those, in my opinion, are just fine to add. There's a YouTube TikTok series that does that where it's the animated wizards and they're doing the ridiculous spells.
Yeah.
Like braid beard or something, and their beard gets all braided or whatever. Yeah. So, I think that there's absolutely a place in settings for those. In the same way that we discussed the low-level magic for career-based NPCs.
Yes.
Like a blacksmith that just knows how to start their their coal forge without any tinder. They can just sit there and go boom. Or a blacksmith that can just control temperature. So he can just put his sword in a coal and then just sit there and get it to the exact temperature he wants with no other magical abilities, but abilities specific to the latent magical energy they have that's focused on the task at hand.
Sure.
And I agree that those things are absolutely great to add in for lore and to help make magic make more sense at different levels. But same thing, these funny, memey, less potent, but still very realistic like spells you would expect to see. I'm 100% for them because they do add, feeling to a world.
Yeah.
That idea that someone came up with power word defecate makes that world feel like somebody with the right. I mean, why does everybody who learns magic have to be serious? Why does everybody have to be power? Like you've got to have that one, there's that one smart guy that just doesn't take anything serious. There's got to be that one guy at the mage college who just doesn't care and just wants to, he just wants to smoke all of the herbs and sit there and make up random ass spells,
It would be absolutely wild.
He just comes up with magic mist tile, not magic missile, but magic mist tile.
Yo, I really want to, I don't remember what exactly it was, but it was the ability to change what a spell does by changing one of the letters in its name.
Yes.
Like, I really want to give that to one of my players and just see what they do with it and just see the different types of things they can come up with. Instead of haste, you cast paste and it's supposed to do X, Y, like, who knows? That'd be wild. That'd be wild.
Yeah, we'll get to the two other harder things too. Just want to make sure we caught up with chat for everything. Well, it says, depending on the boss, I will, but other than just leaving the elements, tell the story, they can figure it out how to fight the boss. Have the enchanted sword to attack. But totally up to players paying attention. I agree with that too. I'm sometimes on the fence on whether or not I want to give them the keys to the puzzle, or I want to just give them the clues and let them fully figure it out. I think that there's a place for both types. I agree. There's a time and a place to give them the necessary answers, and there's a time to make them ask for it or figure it out.
I think not all the time, but largely that differentiation comes when you have created a singular way to accomplish a goal. Like if you have you saying there's one way and one way only for you to get through this thing, you have to say melon. There's no knock spell. There's no blowing it open. There's no teleporting to the other side of it. The only way for you to get through this thing is the way that I say you can get. Like if you've created it and built it that way, like
then you need to give them more clues.
At the very least, you give them a way to find out what it is. But if you've created it somewhat open-ended, you have an idea of what it's going to be, but
you know that there's other options. Yes, absolutely.
I'm totally here for that.
Yeah, I think that's actually the best way to put it. Is it's how closed off did you design it?
Yeah.
All right, so let's look at the last two things. We talked about absolute ruin before, but let's look at what else can make this absolutely a terror. We have Whispers of the Abyss. This one costs 2 legendary actions. Magus unleashes a Magus unleashes a sliver of void-bound knowledge directly into a creature's mind, forcing it to glimpse into the unrelenting emptiness between realities.
Wild.
Target one creature Magus can see within 90 feet. Saving throw, the target must succeed a DC 24 intelligence saving throw or become incapacitated until the end of Magus's next turn.
You just incapacitate somebody.
Just fry their mind.
That's wild. That's pretty crazy. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
That would hurt for sure. 2 legendary actions, you know. I thought it was going to be a 3, but a 2 gives you at least 1 more for something else.
We were talking about this before. I actually think this should be a what is that, legendary reaction? I think this should be a reaction on a legendary action. I think that this should be like
In reaction to what?
Like I almost want this to be like as a reaction to being attacked, like whether it's a spell or anything. The idea that you can interrupt someone attacking you with this, like whether they're casting a spell or melee attack, just being able to be like you, and then just like mid attack, they're just like brain fried.
Interesting.
So like they would lose their spell, it wouldn't go off, and then they would just be stuck there.
So it'd be reaction is being targeted by a spell or ability.
Or melee attack, yeah.
Yeah.
Just as a reaction, you can just stop an incoming attack. Just like that would be, I think, more devastating than a legendary action at this point for something that's even harder.
Sure.
Because that's the true feels bad. That is basically, it is the ultimate counter spell. It is the counter spell of everything. It is not just a counter spell, it is counter everything. Counter attack.
Counter you.
Yes. It is just the pure essence of done. You're countered. That would be a very interesting way to do that. What do I think? What do you think whether it betray or spell that would be able to counter that? It's not counter spell because it's where there's a race where their existence comes from the void, so they'd be immune. Interesting. Yeah, I think you could definitely rule that as a DM, that if the creature comes from a void or comes from something like that, they could get like resistance to it or something.
Sure.
But I don't know. I like this. I kind of, if this is supposed to make the battle harder, we already have plenty of legendary actions. I think this thing needs to be something more quick and more dynamic, being able to spread
around the action economy a little bit.
I mean, and it also just
putting everything
instantly
on.
shuts players down. Imagine just being able to tell that wizard, like, yeah, your most powerful spell, it's now gone and you can't move for the next round. You know, that barbarian who rages and comes at you, you're done. Stop moving, stop dashing, sit there and just stare at me while you're incapacitated. Yeah, I think that would, to make it more devastating, I think as a reaction to anything, just you could just shut anyone down at a moment's notice is devastating. I think that's devastating, and I think that would make this boss battle that much harder.
Okay.
Because again, that's what this is. This is the hard difficulty. I don't think just adding yet another legendary action for me to choose from,
Sure.
that's going to make my job as a DM. Yes, I get more to do, but
You also have more to choose from.
yeah, I'd much rather this be just one of those, like, I'm planning a legendary action and someone's going to fuck with me. I got to shut you down so I can do this next.
Yeah.
That's my mentality on this. And then we have one more. We have Chained to Oblivion. It is once per minute, castable once per minute. Magus binds himself to the battlefield. For the next 2 rounds, he is under the following effects. Announce this to your players. He loses his fly speed. He gains vulnerability to radiant and all physical damage. All of his damage output is multiplied by 1.25. So he grounds himself, becomes vulnerable to radiant and physical damage, but
I'm
his
assuming
damage
that's
output,
on top of whatever he's rolled or his mantle.
yes.
So if
Yes.
he's vulnerable to fire damage based on his mantle, now is fire, physical, and radiant.
Yes, this is on top. He becomes vulnerable on top of his standard.
Okay.
Ooh, that's a good idea, Cart.
I did
Making an aspect of creatures if they get weaker if you know their real name.
Ooh.
Just like a little, like, that should just be like a feature you can add just to demons, like a
think
demon
that's really
category. That should be for the ADMG.
I will say I did confirm with Foxer earlier, this requires no action economy. They can just do this
once per minute.
Yeah. Like whenever they feel like it. And make it happen. Now again, who knows if this is gonna happen more than once in a combat. If the combat lasts that long, it might. It might, especially with some min-maxers.
I mean, well, if you think about it, you do this and then you drop Annihilation Spiral. That's 10d10 by 1.5. That's 15d10, essentially.
And I'm just imagining if that black hole ability is the way we talked about it and
where
actually
then it
brings
pulls you
everybody
in.
in. Just being able to drop that, put this on it, 1.5 it, like, that's crazy. That's crazy.
And it's only for 2 rounds, but those 2 rounds are going to be painful.
Scary rounds.
It does make me want that astral one to still be when he lands, because then that would kind of tie into this idea of like by grounding himself he affects the air.
Oh yeah,
You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? Like that,
Dude,
that-
imagine like if he does the slam and again takes no action economy, it's just a free
Just does
action.
this-
I land, I ground myself.
I turn it difficult terrain. I pull you in with the black hole. Jeez, yeah, you could sit there and just fuck with them hard with this.
That's crazy.
This one's pretty interesting. I'm trying to really figure out how much does this really make the battle harder? Not that this doesn't make it. I'm not saying that this makes it easier, but other than the 1.5 damage, does that really make this feel like he's gonna get that much worse?
I will say, especially because it's got 2 downsides to it. Like, I feel like it almost balances itself out. Like, yeah, he's doing more damage, so he would have to be very strategic about when he uses it, to only use it when he's pretty sure that either you're not going to be able to do any damage to him, like he's locked you down so that I don't have to worry about taking any damage from you guys. All I have to worry about is how much output of damage that I'm going to do to you in the next 2 rounds. Like, it would have to be in a scenario like that would really make it feel scary. So you'd have to be smart as the DM. You have to be very intentional as the DM when you're pulling this out to make this feel scary. Just having it in and of itself, it's not that scary.
Honestly, I'm almost wondering if, again, this is supposed to just be the harder difficulty, right? And we were talking about just increasing action economy. What if instead of giving him another ability to activate, what if this was just the hard version? What if we just said whenever he's on the ground, he does 1.25 damage? Because he's really intended to be a flying target.
Sure.
But when he's on the ground is part of when he's most vulnerable. It would be interesting to say just whenever he chooses to ground himself, he does.
Or even if you ground him.
Yeah.
Like, even if you do something to him that like causes him to...
He becomes more powerful. So I would have been okay, is just instead of once per minute, just whenever he's on the ground, this stuff happens. So
just like a straight up passive ability.
Yeah,
like,
he touches the ground. Whenever he's on the ground, he's vulnerable to radiant and physical, but he puts out 1.25, and then once he's up in the air, he just goes back to normal, because most of his abilities are meant to be in the air.
Sure.
But if you ground him, or if he grounds himself, he gets like a boost to defense, but also loses some of defense. That would still make the game or the battle a little bit harder. I think, yeah, I think that's what I would do. Okay. So what I want to do now that we know how to make it easier and harder, I want to kind of take an idea here of what is the average output we're doing, right? Because we already know that he's going to be immune to most things, vulnerable to only one. He's doing, let's see, 5d12, 8d10, 6d10, 12d10, 10d12. So we're looking at easy 75 average just with his basic actions. He's knocking at about, like, I'm looking at like his max out damages. So it's like, if you're looking at, like 8, right here, this one does 80, 80, 80, 60, 60, 120. Like, that's a pretty broad range, but it seems to be between like the 70, 90.
Yeah.
In terms of the damage on his actions, every single round. And then his legendary actions.
That's just whenever he has a turn, not to mention what he can do in between other people's turns.
Yeah, because then we get into the legendary actions, right? And not only is he can make an attack, he can impose all of the disadvantages to make his other attacks actually go off. We're doing 20 damage of 4s here, 40, 12 here, 10d10 on this one. So considering that he's throwing out, I'll say, bare minimum 50 damage around.
Bare minimum.
And if we're assuming that average combat is expected to last, what, 4 rounds to maybe 6 is the expectation?
I would say an average combat, yes, but I don't know if I would qualify. I'm
just trying to get a baseline. So even if you said like this was an average combat, right? Even at an average combat of say 5 rounds, if he's throwing out 50 a round, how many characters? If you would expect him to be able to kill everybody,
I would say he could easily do 100 damage a round.
Oh, easily. But I'm just saying, if he were to, at bare minimum, throw out 50 a round, how many rounds should it take a boss to
drop somebody?
And if it takes him 10 rounds to kill the whole party, we can aggregate their whole lifespan,
Sure.
life. But if we think that an average boss battle should take 5 rounds and he could kill them all, doing an average of 50 to 80 damage, that puts them at a much lower range of HP, right? So that's what I'm just trying to understand is, so we know it's a boss battle, but if you take the range of what it can do versus the average HP of players, we should be able to figure out how long it should take him to kill the players.
I would say, I wish there was like an app for like what's the average HP of a level 20 barbarian versus the average HP of
Google that, because I'm looking at this from the point of view of it's easy to tell how long it would take the players at various levels to take down someone with 500 HP. Like 22 AC, anything above 10th level, 22 AC is not that terrible. Like there's going to be plenty of ways that you would have been able to overcome a 22 AC anytime after level 10. That 500 AC means it's going to be a slog. If you are facing this before level 15 at that much AC, you're going 8 rounds. Like, you aren't dropping this thing that quickly. You know, unless everybody's maxing out their hits. Like, even I would say with 500 before level 15, it's probably going to take you 4 rounds if everyone max damaged, right? It would still take max damage. It would still take everybody slogging this thing.
Yeah,
a sub 15, because you're just not doing that much damage below 15th level.
I
think once
I would say I've seen moments. I mean, maybe it would be much more rare sub 15, but I've seen 100 points of damage in a turn from a single character.
Oh yeah, no, it can be done, but I'm just talking about like averages. Like when you're looking at like how much rolls will take into account and how much damage output a standard character can do, even though with min-maxers. I'm just trying to say that if this is supposed to be around a 4 to 8 round combat, it sounds like it's trying to be a like 12 to 18, but it's still too overpowered for that. If it is that level 20 plus, if this is level 20, 25, 30, that this is like, you know, way past your campaign game, then this will probably last that, because you would be about as hefty. But if we're expecting this to last 10 rounds, 12 rounds, if we're expecting this to be a multi-hour
I think it would
battle,
be cool if this battle lasted more than 10 rounds. And I feel like the way it's set up right now, it's on pace to do that.
If it does, I don't think it's meant for level 20 characters then. I don't think level 20 characters could last that long before killing it or dying. Like, with all of the damage output going for 10 rounds, even a level 20 character, like, think about how much health that they would have at level 20. I think this thing would slog through them within 10 rounds. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think that it might be beyond level 20 if we're thinking it's going to take that long.
I would say that the damage it can do combined with the healing that parties could do would mitigate that to a certain extent. You know, and this is without the special spells or anything that like basically doubles their health or does anything like that. You know, depending on what version of druid you're using, druids have a crazy health pool. Depending upon what types of barbarian you are, you know, you could have resistance to all types of damage with the exception of like psychic and force damage. And I don't think this thing does do some psychic damage. It does do some significant psychic damage.
It does have quite a few psychic damage, and then being able to control people's actions, like the amount of things that this thing can do. I mean, I could not imagine throwing this to a sub-level 10 group unless it was one of those types of settings that was extreme. Like, you know, there are some settings that I've seen people do where at level 1 you're fighting dragons kind of shit.
Sure.
I've seen that level of intense gameplay. I don't think that this is for that. I'm gonna probably say that depending on the setting, because we know very little about the specific setting, I could see maybe a justification for trying to say that this is 16 to 18th level if the setting permits that to be your max level gameplay. But I don't know why this wouldn't be 20th level or beyond if you have it, right? Like, I don't know how to justify this being any lower than truthfully an 18th level party, because lower than that, and it must be a very high level, high functioning setting where everything is min-maxed. Like every NPC is min-maxed, the players are full out min-maxed.
Sure.
Just because, there's...
I'm genuinely going to say the absolute lowest I could see this going is 17th level for specifically a party of 5. If there's a party of 5, if you guys are decently spread on what you can do, again, everybody's min-max, which means likely the majority of you guys are going to be multi-classed into different things. Going to be like the majority of you guys are going to have a dip into fighter, so you all have action surge or something like that. Like if we're talking that type of min-max action, you got a divination wizard that can just change the roles on a whim, stuff like that. Like if you're seeing a lot of those things, I can totally see, not totally, like it would be really challenging for a group of people that are level 17. But I think doing all of that at level 20, I think you could see a battle that runs past 10 rounds. I think that the balance back and forth of like, hey, we got to make sure we're out here, we got to make sure we're doing this, I definitely think that the enemy is going to have a lot of opportunities to screw you up. And if you make a bad choice, if you make a bad round, it could be the beginning of the end for you guys. But at the same time, I think there's moments and things to be said for being able to recover from that, depending on how creative you are with certain things, I don't know if it says anything. Like, it's got a really high DC, but it doesn't say anything about it specifically being resistant to magic, right? And so, like, imagine you cast banishment on the thing, right? Mm-hmm. Like how it says it's immune to, a lot of conditions, but banishment, it doesn't really put a condition on you, right? Like, you're just gone, So I feel like there are ways for it to work. Like, there's no way you're dominating this thing. It's for sure immune to charmed, but like there are things that you can do that I feel like might mitigate it. Like I feel like it's possible for you to polymorph this thing potentially, right? Like all kinds of there's very creative options for you to do some stupid stuff to it, especially because it's only one creature, and especially if you have the combinations of a divination wizard. No, you're going to fail this particular save, but it's got a lot of things that can. What was one of its abilities? It says if it fails a save, it can do something. It can like roll another save or something. It can
re-roll. Yeah, I could just So I would say that I could definitely see the right setting and the right players and the right DM knowing some of the min-max builds I've seen out there. And because a lot of people believe that D&D is really primed to end your campaign around level 10. Like there's a portion of the community that really doesn't believe that level 20 is an achievable max. Yeah. So in that respect, I could see this being as low as level 12. Like in a very specific setting with a very specific group of people that we know are min-maxers, I could see this being as low as 12 and being that 12 to 15 round, everyone's almost dying, you're probably using lifeline. But I kind of agree with you in general, as a general sense of what this is, I would never put this before level 16. And that's just because that's the average. So I think that with the right players, maybe level 12, probably not before level 16, but it definitely feels more like what you would expect at 18 to 20.
My mindset of level 12 is, when you say the right players, that to me means everyone has to be perfect, and there is literally zero room for error. If you make a mistake, you're all fucking dead.
That's what I mean.
That's exactly you're all fucking dead. Like, there is a slim ass fucking chance that you know everything about him, you know what he's immune to, you figure out how to achieve his resistances, you figure out how to poke him with the exact thing you need to poke him with. Yes. You have somebody that's maxed out on the exact like,
that's what I mean. That's why I say that's the only reason why I can justifiably say I can see it. Because there are, I've talked with other players who do have settings like this where everybody on the table understands your player is going to die. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Like there are those kind of gaming tables where it's like everything is here. Like what was that that module that's like intended to piss you off and kill you remember we were talking about it a couple months ago, but there's like a module out there that is literally designed. It was an old one. It was like from like first edition, but it's basically designed to. It was absolutely designed to be run in as a tournament to see how quickly someone could get through it, but it was designed to be stupid. And that's kind of like the idea. I've seen games like that, so I kind of feel like that's where I would put this. Is I could see it that low, but I don't think I would run it that low.
Sure.
But in the end, it's a pretty solid build. It's a pretty solid idea. I like the uniqueness of it. I like the control it gives the DM of not just Battlefield, but of the experience the players are going to have. I like the idea that we have a creature that has a easy, medium, and hard mode.
Yeah.
That's very
I think
flexible.
that's super cool.
And while I'm not the biggest fan of IP recreations of
sure,
I'm much more of the mindset of unique builds, from the creation itself, like from the setting or something that's fills a need, not something that's like an inspiration.
I would be actually curious how close this is to what the actual pop culture build can do. Or how much thoughts are intended to be able to do the same things the guy in the game can do.
Right. Yeah. And so I won't really comment on that because I don't know enough about the IP to say how much of a 1-to-1 it is.
Sure.
But yeah, it just in terms of the compatibility point, in terms of it being a relatable IP, it is just something that I had to take into account. But otherwise, I like the idea. I like that it has a lot of dynamicism. I like what the players can do during the fight. I like what the DM has. There's a few things that I would like to see cleaned up verbiage wise.
Sure.
There's a lot of abilities here. I do think some of these legendary actions and some of the regular actions could be shifted around a little bit to be more reactionary.
Spread out the action economy.
Exactly. Because we don't have anything other than just at will actions. We don't have any other side actions, bonus actions, reactions. All we have is the two, legendary actions and regular actions. So that's the only thing is a few wording changes. And I still say that the two, I would still say the two that I just don't see that really fully fit are the the Astral Collapse and Undo Fate. Everything else, Timeshare, I would just rename, but all the other abilities are synergistic. They make sense. I can wrap my head around why and how this creature has them. But those are the only two where I love the abilities, but I just don't think they fit the rest of the mold
specifically.
And I think those easily could be swapped out with those reactions we were talking about, and still not take away from what the creature can do and what the boss battle will actually do. I think it's fantastic. Thank you so much, Foxer, for submitting this. I think for compatibility with High Point, it's very in line with, like I said, the things that I have on that higher level, near immortality. It has that kind of feel for me. So I'm very much about it. It doesn't quite fit a specific need that I have, and I can't really take it anyway because it's a public IP. So I'll take the points away from that, but it does give me a lot more ideas, and it does reinforce some of the things that I've been wanting to practice with, which is how to give the players more options for difficulty. Like I mentioned before, being able to do side quests to get in the way of the BBEG to make that ending fight easier.
Right.
This gives me ideas on how to integrate more of those things.
Got you.
We talk about the player help scrolls, learning enough about the enemy and saying, hey, you can go, he's right there. He's in that castle. You can go defeat him whenever you want. But you've learned enough about him to know that there's this old wizard that actually defeated him once. And that wizard hit a spell that could possibly help you. Right. And that's how the players get to choose to go for Lifeline. The Lifeline spell instead of just facing him head on.
Yeah.
And then same thing with the optional abilities. Maybe, the Absolute Ruin, maybe these are side quests where if they fail, you actually give him one of these. So if you can go get a good scroll to help you, but if you fail that mission, maybe you actually helped him instead. And he gets one of his harder. So it gives me a lot more ideas of how to play with that. I will say that it does.
I kind of like the idea of kind of to a point you mentioned earlier, like this is somebody that's been your friend all along, and in the end you kind of have to decide to like side or like betray him. Like depending upon how you treated him, depending on certain choices that you made throughout, you could have ended up making him more powerful. Or the opposite could be true. Maybe somebody caught on early enough and was like, I feel like this is a little sus. I'm gonna prepare, and I'm gonna grab these little pieces over here just in case, type deal.
Yeah. I think that's pretty cool. Okay, so what do we have from Foxer? So Magus is the final boss of an optional gauntlet that unlocks at the same time as the final boss fight. So kind of like you can choose to go do this before the main boss fight.
Oh, okay.
Interesting. Let's see. So as a boss fight, which can be challenged starting at level 15. The gauntlet is made up of 4 consecutive battles with long rests in between. I like that. The first 3 are pair of bosses. After each win, player gains an extra level. The last fight is Magus. Defeating Magus grants them 2 levels, allowing players to reach 20th level before taking on the final boss. If they complete the entire gauntlet, although they can enter the gauntlet after defeating the final boss if they want. So it's basically a final way. So at level 15, anytime after level 15, you can go fight the final boss. You can choose to do this gauntlet to spam some level ups before you go to the final boss or afterwards.
So if you're level 15 and you start this gauntlet and you level up after every level, you'll be at least level 18
when you fight Magus,
and then it'll get you to level.
And then he'll get you to level 20. So the intent is, so we were right. The intent is level 18.
Got you.
Defeating Magus grants you the 2 levels. So you can do it either way, but the intent is to fight Magus at level 18. Interesting. So check out the rules because they do change playability of the campaign. What do you mean by what? Did we miss something?
I don't think so. That was all I remember.
I don't think we missed anything. But yeah, either way, I think this is really cool. Even for a like sourced IP, I think this is exactly what those high-level min-max players need.
I feel like this was adapted so well as well. I feel like everything that's here works really well with 5th edition, and yet is so unique to 5th edition. Like, meaning a lot of stuff that's done here hasn't been done before in 5th edition, but it does work and flow and have the ability to function so well with everything else that's there. So that to me is very, very impressive, and I'm definitely taking some ideas from what I can do.
And I really think that the initial warnings, the initial concept for DMs of this is meant for tactical players.
Sure.
Don't just throw this in anybody, I think is absolutely enough.
Oh yeah.
To keep this universally acceptable to a lot of DMs who are in the right situation that they need this.
They can recognize, oh yeah, these are my players right here. I for sure want to use something like this.
Yeah. I think I'm really happy with this. I think that the only real points that I would have to take away are, the IP source, and it doesn't suit a real specific need. Like this particular character doesn't suit a specific need. And there's a few things that I would change, like, the 2 spells that don't quite match, and then giving it a little bit more action economy.
Sure.
But that's it. Everything else, it's synergistic, it flows, it follows through. So I'm going to rock it with a 7. I think that as a boss battle, it hits all of the right check marks. It's all of the right kind of difficulty you want to see, knowing that it's specifically intended for those players. Because you can't just throw this at anybody, but there are a group of players that will not only have fun with this, but deserve it.
Yes, but deserve it. I love that.
7 out of 10. Hopefully you enjoyed that. Hopefully you got some good ideas. If you do decide to change it, let us know. We always don't mind a second review if anything major happens, or you can just let us know in Discord if you took any of our advice. But otherwise, I think it's cool. I would love as a player to fight this. Not normally, like this would definitely be more like a one shot, because I'm not normally a min-maxer.
Right.
So to play a game, to make a character and build it up to fight this would not be as fun for me. But doing like an arena style one shot where everyone got together and like all the players min-max the crap out of a party. Like everyone sat down at session 0 and, you know, cross-referenced everybody's abilities, then I could see this being a lot of fun, where it's a true one-shot min-maxer's haven, where we get to do as much as possible and we don't know quite what we're up against.
Yeah.
But we know a few puzzle pieces like that. I think would be a lot of fun.
That's super cool.
Made through the final boss. Ooh, yeah, definitely. If this is supposed to help you get to the final boss, I want to know what the final boss actually is, because this is only one of the multiple fights.
I will say they did submit to me what I believe is the final boss, and let me check. Please correct me if I'm wrong, Foxer, but I believe that the final boss is called Lavos. Now, I don't know much about it. I took a glance at what it was. And again, Foxer, please let me know. I did not see a creature type, but I believe from the image that I saw, it looks like a monstrosity. So it looks like a big, scary thing.
Okay.
So
well, we'll have to see.
Maybe
that.
one of these days we'll get at that. It's on the list. It is on the list.
All right. Well, thank you again, Foxer, for submitting that. I hope that you enjoyed the review. I hope everybody at home enjoyed the review as well. It was a lot of fun. I definitely got a lot to take away from this, so I will be adapting this.
Foxer, what are you referring to when you're saying the rules?
Yeah, so I'm really happy with this, but yeah, so thank you so much again for that. And at home, I'm really curious for you guys at home, what did you think? What were some of your favorite abilities? I know we went through a lot of them, but yeah, just let us know in the comments what you thought of this particular build. Would you have liked to fight it as a player, and as a DM, would you use it yourself? Otherwise, yeah, we promote we have videos coming out every single week, so join us next week for another review. Actually, I don't know if we're going to do another review, so join us next week for another video, as we always do them. And yeah, I hope you guys had a fantastic week, and we will see you guys next week. Cheers.
Deuces, my friends.
All right, so what is this about rules?
So they're referring to something, the last thing that I sent them. I want to check what they sent me over in Discord. Let's take a look. Oh, campaign custom rules. Okay. I did not get an opportunity to pull that up or to create that for what we're about to do. Let me take a gander.
So is that like for the boss fight, or was that specifically just for like the setting itself?
This is my high level custom campaign. The mechanics below are not designed for typical D&D campaigns, as they are built specifically for my own party, a group composed of entirely of spellcasters. These features were created to fit their play style.
So that would almost be what we would want to do as like a showcase.
Yeah.
That's going to be something more specific to how a setting operates, and much less to something that like the average player would like take away from this. So I wouldn't mind doing that as its own submission if we want to do a showcase.
I apologize if I misunderstood your intent, Foxer, but that was what I thought you had sent me, is its own submission, because rule sets are definitely something that are very unique, and we've actually had some other rule sets that were submitted already, and I think that was definitely my intent. Otherwise, if I knew that was meant to be a part of this, I probably would have included it in the write-up.
Gotcha.
But yeah.
Well, and I think that's, especially if those rule sets are specific to the setting, I would much prefer doing that as a showcase, but then, then we can highlight them the exact way, because that's why I like to differentiate the difference between like a regular community submission review and a showcase. The reason why I just want to like put those differences, because with like what we did today, the review process is to review it as both a player and a DM, as well as how likely I would be to try to use it in my own setting, right?
Sure.
But with a showcase, recognizing that it is only meant to be played from one perspective, as in like one DM is meant to run it, not everybody. We usually do showcases purely with the mindset of being players, and we look at it from the point of view of how excited would I be to play this, or if, how excited would I be to, run that game as a player, and how interested and what questions would I have, what would intrigue me, and what rabbit holes would I go down, or what things would I stay away from. So that's why I want to do that one in a showcase instead of this, because
For sure.
at least with a showcase, we would be more inclined to give it a better review instead of talking about why it won't work for everybody else. We'd actually be able to highlight everything of why we like about it, knowing that it's an isolated situation. So if we know that if this is meant to be a party completely of wizard or spellcasters, that's already fascinating. And then having feats that help that specific group, I think that would be a fantastic showcase by itself, because that I think is just a unique way of running. I've always said the party composition should never matter. Like the story should always be told regardless of party composition. So that kind of a showcase would really give us an opportunity to see how other people DM that, how they work with the abnormal party.
Right. Composition.
Yeah, composition. That's the word I'm looking for. What happened? Rock paper. Oh, they're asking which is the next one, and they were doing rock paper scissors to figure out who.
Well,
I was trying to figure out what happened there.
Give me a hot second, and I will press.
One of the things is that players get legendary actions, a special status for the party's about to lose. That's interesting. I would definitely be down to check that out and see how that works. That would probably definitely change how this boss would work, but I don't think it would truly change the fact that the boss is still definitely meant for challenging those type of players who act like nothing's a challenge.
Yes, very much so.
Oh, it's still all a work in progress. Well, yeah, let him know. Just anytime you update Kage, let him know, and he will be able to get any updates into that before we do it. But yeah, so that was Foxer's first one. So their average is going to be a 7.
Average is a 7. Yes, indeed.
What is our review for next Monday?
Finally, Soul gets their sentience.
Finally, Soul with sentience. There we go.
Yeah.
Soul sentience is coming up. And then hopefully we should get some more rotation after that, unless we get anybody new, any other new submitters.
Yep.
So that'll be fine.
But you are officially in rotation now, Foxer. So all the other stuff that you have submitted, I think I have. Let me actually look. Not including the one that we just talked about, the rule set that will likely end up being a showcase. Not including that, I believe that they have a total of 5 submissions, and all the submissions other than this one that I recall are dual submissions, which means there are 2 creatures that work together as one. So I'm very interested, and I'm actually curious if these are the other battles that they'll run into in this tournament.
Oh, interesting. If it's all part of it. Okay. Well, they did say that they posted it on Reddit recently, and it's getting a lot of traction. So that's cool. Yes. That's really nice. So I can't wait to start posting on Reddit.
Yeah.
I have not done anything with our subreddit, but eventually, once that's kind of a community thing. As it grows, it grows. But okay. Oh, yeah, it's the 3 duel encounters and then Lavos. Okay, so we're gonna get the whole like ending to this.
Sweet. Kind
of like what happened with Cosmic. Gave us like just basically the big ending, and then we just got all of the good juiciness. Okay. Fantastic. And then do we know where Cart is? Do we know how long I don't, because I know we had a couple. I know we haven't seen Cosmic in a minute, we haven't seen Cart in a minute. Hecate. I don't know how many people have in queue. So I don't know.
We've got quite a few in queue. I
know we don't usually look that far ahead, but I don't know if you can tell.
So I will say this. We've got Soul next week. After that, it's scheduled to be Pokeniner. After that, it's scheduled to be Cart.
Gotcha. Okay, so Soul, Pokeniner, and Cart so far is the list if we don't get anybody new.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Yes. All right, well, cool. Well, that wasn't too bad of a review. A little bit of a rocky outro there, but yeah, overall, cool design, really cool.
I liked it a lot. I really did.
Like I said, I'm not usually a fan of sourced IP creations, but I feel like this one hit all the right marks. This one doesn't feel like it's just a ripoff, but it also feels like it serves enough of a purpose that choosing the IP, I feel, matters less than the outcome does. Like, it doesn't matter who you really would have chosen. The way it was built made it work.
Yes.
For the purpose of challenging those types of players. And so therefore I can't really knock, you know, it being a mimic of another IP simply because it solved a different purpose, right? It wasn't trying to just be a carbon
copy. It was its own entity. Yeah.
It was influenced by. It was inspired by, but not based on. That's the difference.
There you go.
I much prefer it being inspired by than based on. Because if you just, you know, like pop culture builds are directly based on.
Yes.
Those are fun, but I don't want to see that in a homebrew in terms of like, I do a pop culture build to make that exact icon, but I don't want someone trying to act like they're not doing that while directly doing it.
Yeah.
That's that hard part about if that's what it is, make it, just say it. Just say that's what it is. Don't try to make it your own and act like you're being unique about it, right? But that's what I love about this. Even though it's a known IP, what it's trying to accomplish is not that.
Just being that IP.
Exactly. Still in the process of scripting the campaign. I'm around chapter 7 of the guide. Expecting to have around 35 chapters.
Good bless America.
I mean, are you trying to make this like a module? Or are you like considering making this like a playable module, or is that just your notes to help you run the thing? And are you planning on running this multiple times? Like, is this supposed to be something that you can run with multiple groups? Or is this just how much work you're putting into the final boss? Because respect. It's a lot of work.
Mad
for a
respect.
Boss.
Goodness gracious.
This is one of the reasons why I don't do that many notes and I don't write that much stuff down, is because I don't ever plan on running the same thing twice. You know what I mean? Everything's just a one-time deal. So
I will say the biggest reason why I do like writing down as much as I can as it happens is because I love intertwining things and I love reusing things like this creepy organization that I used in this campaign. I'm gonna have them continue on and they evolve from that organization to this one.
Like writing notes on what happened is different than pre-planning like this. Like, you know what I mean? Like, putting effort into something that hasn't happened yet versus making sure you remember what happened.
Sure.
That's what I like to do. I like to remember, but I just can't put that much effort into something that I don't know will happen yet.
For sure.
All right, well, we'll let Foxer paste one more thing, and then we'll probably end it there. Good day.
No, that was great.
I do think that
great.
I will do some more game streams this week if I can. I have we have another episode coming out. We did this week. The episode this week is going to be the Mindfrost Crescent.
Oh, okay.
I just finished editing that.
Very cool.
Mindfrost Crescent will be launching on the main channel on Wednesday. Shorts every single day. Friday we'll do more one-shot rival development, and then hopefully that'll be ready by next month or maybe the month after to actually do a test run on stream. And I will try to do as many. I'll actually really try to do game streams this week to let the community catch up to the community stream.
Sure. Give
it the best chance. Because we did, cancel Saturday or last Friday and stuff. So I will do the best we can to do all of that.
That sounds awesome.
Oh yeah, Soul, you still have your Ben 10s. How many have you had now? Like 80?
Oh, they have not submitted those yet. Just FYI.
I think they're still working on them, so I think they want to submit them all at once. All right, so campaign structure for Foxer's setting. So level 1 through 5 is establishing timelines, discovering time travel, and fractured eras. 6 through 10 is the Threads of Ruin, and the Threads of Ruin intervening in key moments of history to stabilize reality and prevent anomalies. Level 11 through 15, discovering the truth behind the collapse of ages, Lavas's influence, and preparing to challenge it. Level 16 to 20, the battle across all time at this point. The time gauntlet opens and the players become able to fight Lavos. So that kind of makes sense for like some of those abilities that we had heard of.
Okay, yeah.
Sits better in the setting, but still not quite directly related to the character, I feel, but makes a little bit more sense when you're looking at like the grander scheme of things. I like that though. That's a very cool concept. I like playing with time and messing with players.
Agreed.
In terms of their concepts of things. So that sounds pretty dope. I think that's going to be a good. I don't know if you're going to call that a one shot or a module, whatever, what have you. That I like the
structure of all that.
Yeah, the way that you've unfolded that. It's very funny because that's the way that it ends up unfolding for me when I do chapters of y'all's like previous stuff. I chapterize what we've done, And this sounds very much like what ends up happening after the fact. So I dig it. I dig it.
Fire. Straight fire.
All right, y'all. Well, I think that's gonna be us. Takes us past the 3-hour mark. That was a really fun review, though. I like that review. It's very rare we get something so powerful that doesn't feel too. I don't want to say too difficult. Just it was the first time we've seen something that powerful that didn't feel bad.
Yes,
it was just like
that's very true.
I could have a lot of fun
very
with that.
true. And I talked about it before, but I feel like every one of our community members that submits something has a unique fingerprint for their style of homebrew creation. And I'm very curious to watch what your future submissions look like and how that fingerprint is kind of like develops these certain consistencies, because a lot of the ideas that you have are like crazy creative and very unique, and I'm super enthusiastic to see how those play out in these other submissions. So yeah, that's gonna be super cool. That's gonna be very cool.
6:20 a.m. and still not tired. Well, I hope that we are that entertaining for you. Otherwise, I hope that whatever you're doing, you're having a good time. But I think that is going to be the end for us. So keep an eye out. I will be on for the rest of this week, trying to do some game streams before Friday, at which point we will be doing One Shot Rival Development, which is going to be our on-stream gaming with chat option, where those in chat will be able to battle themselves or battle each other in a Marvel Rivals D&D style turn-based combat that we're developing. So if you want, hang out with us on Friday. If you see me gaming this week, just hang out, come and hang out, chat. And you may be gaming, or you may be streaming on Tuesdays.
Yes.
So if you do see Kage stream,
hit me up.
Give him some love as well. But otherwise, we will be back on Friday. I hope you guys had a fantastic weekend. I hope you have a great week ahead of you. And we'll be back on Friday. Other than that, have a great rest of your night, guys. Cheers.
Deuces, my friends.